The Wheel of Time show airs, and episodes drop and are viewed, leaving scenes that become legend. Legend fades to season, and even season is long forgotten when the episode that gave it birth comes again. In one episode, called the fifth episode by some, an episode yet to come, an episode long past, a chatter began amongst the nerds of the internet. The chatter was not the Aftershow. There are no afters or befores to the airing of the Wheel of Time show. But it was an Aftershow.
Hey everybody! Welcome to an after show. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
So good.
I love that intro.
Thanks, I made it. This is the Wheel of Time after show. We'll be talking about episode 5 and probably stuff that happened before then. And let me just introduce our today's guests and give me a second to do this. So, returning for the second time, you know him, you love him. We've got Jared, who is a budding architect. You already know, he... oops, go back. Never mind. Oh no, I've already messed up. Okay, sorry. Not Jared. Sorry. Nathan's first. Coming back for the second time, Nathan. He is a budding tech mogul. You already know he's the inventor of Meow Mixer from last time. But little known fact, he also invented the hip new app Uber Eats, which I'm told is like Uber Eats but for cats. And then joining us again, we've got my cousin Jared, who, if you've been watching for a long time, is the lead architect behind the Taj Mahals in India. But he's also responsible for a very, very well-known building in Paris, France, called the Eiffel Tower. And joining us for the first time, my friend Tanner. He's a great guy. He's a teacher, and he just barely released a book, which you can find on Amazon, about teaching and his experience, and it is called Flirting with Students. When is it okay?
Please, no. Can I just, for any future employers out there, I didn't know about this joke. It is a joke. I would never actually flirt with a student. Please don't fire me or put me on any watch lists.
That's also the name of chapter 1, weirdly enough. That's so weird. What's chapter 2? I need to read this. It's so interesting.
It's a very short book.
Chapter 2 is alibis.
Establishing alibis.
And then chapter 3 is recommendations for lawyers. That's it.
And then also joining us for the first time is my brother David, who I unfortunately don't have a funny introduction for him. He works in IT, kind of customer support for technology stuff, but he did send me a nice picture of his workplace, and I thought that would be fun to share. So that's basically what he does all day.
That's accurate.
And then introducing the enigmatic trophy husband himself, me. And these are our guests for today, and welcome to an after show. Let me pull this thing. I'm getting better at this. Okay. So thanks for joining me, guys. Let's talk. Let me pull up. So if you're just joining us for the first time, how this show works is we have 3 different levels of spoilers, and so I'm going to add. We'll have a ticker running the full time, so you won't ever be surprised by spoilers coming up. We're going to just open the discussion on try and keep it spoiler free, just talking about our general thoughts about the series and episode 5, and for the people just joining us, the whole season so far. And then after that, we will get into season 1 spoilers up to the current episode, and we'll change the ticker. And then at the very end of the episode, this time we'll actually have time to get into full book series spoilers, and no bars held, organs pulled, the stops thing. So we know our panelists, or our guests. Today we also have my cousins have all read the books, but my friend and brother are non-book readers, so we should be able to have a nice discussion on what the show looks like to someone who's dumb.
Hey, now.
I was sorry, ignorant of the books.
That's a nicer way of saying that.
Tanner, you've started reading book 1. You're about like 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, I'm at like 75%. I guess I won't say what happens in the first book, because there are. I watched the series, all of it this weekend, and I learned that just in the first book, the plot is basically the same, but what happened, there's a whole lot more in the book that gives it a bunch of differences, but I'm still pretty much a novice to the Wheel of Time. And you haven't really told me a whole lot about it either. You just said read it and then watch it, come on my show, all that good stuff. So I am relatively new, but I've been enjoying it. I think the special effects are cool. The costume and technical design of like the Trollocs and the other monsters is really good. Some good performances by the actors as well, and really nice set design as well. I've enjoyed that. I'd maybe, I don't know, give it like maybe 7 out of 10 stars at this point. I don't know what else you want me to say, but
no, that's great. Thanks for that.
yeah.
It's interesting to hear, because my wife asks a lot of questions when we're watching the show. She has not read the books, but she's not a good like judge of whether or not something is explained well, because she doesn't pay attention when she. So I'm like, okay, I could answer your question, or we could just rewind 30 seconds and the show would answer your question. But like, David as well, you have not even touched the books and you're watching the show. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it's made sense so far. I've tried to get my hands on the books. You keep saying that I can borrow them from you, but they keep getting stolen. So, lending it out is out of the question. One day I'll get to them though.
What do you think about the show?
The show's been pretty good. The first 3 episodes I thought similar, was about a 7 out of 10. The last 2 though, 4 and 5, I've enjoyed quite a bit more. I think it's probably an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. The past few episodes have been very good. Lots of character development. Got a little bit of motivations behind the characters, and which means that there's a less action sequences, but it was very good. I liked it.
Yeah, the first 3 episodes are pretty fast paced, and I too have enjoyed 4 and 5 a lot more because it slows down. It feels more lived in when you get to 4 and 5, and then we have Jared and Nathan, who Jared's read the books once, and Nathan's read it like at least 6 times. How are we feeling with episode 5?
I really like 5. I definitely think they're just kind of getting better and better. Like there's every time I watch them, I find myself thinking, oh man, you notice if you notice these little things, they're setting them up for the future, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to still see these little things where I'm like, ooh, this hopefully is coming in the future. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they're setting up for some things that happen like 6 books down the line. So we can't even talk about that yet. But there is a lot of attention to detail and a lot of groundwork being laid for things that will happen in the future. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to go into and say I agree as well. I think the last 2 episodes have been better. The 5th one wasn't my favorite. If I'm being like devil's advocate here. I thought there was a lot of like good plot development and good character development. There were also some things that were harder for me and I thought were kind of a little bit awkward. And I was watching it with my parents, if I'm being completely honest, and that made things some kind of awkward too. But so ultimately good. Again, I would say this is probably one of my lesser favorite episodes, though.
Do you have a specific example? Something you didn't like?
Not without going like too far into spoilers yet, and I don't think we're ready for that.
Okay, we'll get into it later,
Really?
I guess.
Yeah, not even like for changes they've made, because I can see the changes they've made and why, and I feel like they make a lot of sense. But I have just like some
there is a big issue with episode 5 that I want to bring up later, that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but overall it was good, and it's nice to see more of the White Tower, which you don't necessarily get in book 1, which is a huge part of the series, much later on in the books, but you don't really get it right off the bat. So for the non-book readers, is there anything you just like don't understand at all from the show that's just not explained well? Because for us, when we see something, we immediately, I've read all the books and I can explain it myself. Or if my wife asks a question, I'm like, I go into like an hour-long explanation of world building and theory crafting, but there are obvious blind spots for us in that regard. I don't know if it's explained well to someone who's blind.
Well, I think that's a good question. It's kind of hard to tell at this point because I think with any new show, even ones that aren't based on books, you kind of, they kind of sprawl out a lot of the mythology throughout the season. And so it's hard at this point. I think, there's a lot of questions about how, the magic works specifically, or, the society in this world that I'm hoping that get explained, down the road. So there's questions. I don't know if there's confusion per se about anything that's happened so far, but it's hard to say at this point. If the season finishes and there's still questions about the magic system, or about the hierarchy of all of the the factions in the White Tower, or anything else, I don't know, then it might change. But as of now, I think they've done an appropriate amount of world building and little sprinkling nuggets of how the magic works. So far, I think it's okay, but we'll see.
So there isn't like a specific place where you've just been totally lost?
I can't think of any off the bat, no.
David, have you been watching the bonus content as well?
No.
There's bonus content?
Yeah, how do we access that?
Yeah.
It's hard to find, baby.
It is hard to find. On Prime, there's like the X-ray feature. If you go into each episode afterwards, there's like a little bonus shorts that they've been doing. Those really help to bring the world together in more detail than is maybe gone into.
I think I read an article it's is it like a behind the scenes, like making
There-
of,
so
or is
there-
it
there-
like
they have that as well. So if you click
Right.
on bonus content, you'll find behind the scenes and like interviews from Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan's wife.
And maps
Um,
and like stuff like that. But
But
it's
they
actually
also,
shorts.
they have an animated short, one per episode, that goes into lore and world building.
that's good to know, because
They're really good.
I'm kind of in the same boat as David, where it's like I don't understand how like the world or the magic works, whether it's the politics or whatever, but I assume that's because they are letting us explore that and learn that
Yeah.
as we go along. But a couple of things that I'm kind of confused with might be, I don't know how level of a spoiler it is, but there are some questions with kind of what's happening with some of the characters, as well as some of the bigger magical people. Maybe we could call them gods or deities. I'm not sure, but like the Dark One and the light versus dark. That's some stuff that I don't know much about. But with characters who are, on the fence of whether they're going to pursue their magical talent or not, I assume that would be something that we discover with them as we maybe get into episodes where they're learning.
I do have one example because I was watching this series with my wife, and she was a little bit confused, and she asked a question as if the dragon was the Dark One. And I was like, no, I don't think the dragon's the Dark One. I think that the Dark One just corrupted the magic, and the dragon is just some, super magic user.
Is that because it
broke the world or whatever? But
is that because it showed Logain's magic as like a blackness?
No, well, she was just confused because there's three, I guess, dark entities, I guess they've talked about throughout the show or shown throughout the show. There's the Dark One that they've just referenced. There's the dragon, which last time he was reborn broke the world or whatever. And then there's that that glowing-eyed guy in the dreams. In the dreams, yeah. And I think they mentioned that guy's name in this last episode. I don't remember. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it. I don't have any notes because this is a spur of the moment thing.
Let's change the spoiler ticker.
I'm sorry.
no, it's good because I want to respond to what you just said, which surprised me. Right?
It's kind of a good question.
It's a good question, and I don't know how to answer.
I would say, well, first of all, I don't really know. I don't remember if they said his name in this one or whatever.
What made you think that they said his name?
Yeah,
I just remembered I'm not, like I said, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the episode because I didn't make any notes, but I could have sworn they said something about.
Is it?
Are you talking about the Forsaken part where they talk about
maybe
he's like?
Oh, they do talk about that.
Yeah. So that is a really good question. I would say at this point you're not really supposed to know.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be ambiguous with all of them, and specifically with the dragon. I think they're purposely kind of toting that line, right, and making you question.
They're not telling you who Glowy Eyes guy is yet.
Right.
David's not wrong though. They did say his name. They didn't say that is the guy you've been seeing in dreams.
If I'm right, I don't know. I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
It's not that big of a spoiler.
When the bartender, the barmaid, dark friend attacked him, she said she called him Ishmael, I think.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, okay.
Or Ishmael. I was trying to make a joke.
Ishmael. Yeah.
So she said when she was ranting about how she's going to bring him in and all that stuff. She did
that
say
was
kind of a
that was
sinister
episode
name.
4.
That was episode 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I could have sworn it was in episode 5, but
Well,
They-
episode
they
5 though
say
they do
it-
talk about it. Yeah.
They talk about Ishamael in episode 5 when the warders
Okay.
are talking, and
They have their like little
axe guy is praying.
idols.
Yes.
Well, they have the idols too, the little figurines, like
So
the small gods.
yeah. So I was assuming that was probably what they were seeing in the dreams. I don't know if that's the dark one that they're referring to, or like a spirit of the dragon or something. But
I mean,
you know,
TBD.
as far as
TBD at this point.
Yeah, they haven't said this explicitly.
Exactly.
But that is a really good question. That's very.
That's a great
insightful,
question.
Honestly,
But yeah, that was something that
wondering
my wife was confused about, is whether the dragon was the dark one.
I think it's safe to say they're definitely going to explain that later on.
Yeah.
I having read through most of book 1, they there's a bit more interaction between it. The dreams are a bit more
Interactive.
interactive is
Yeah.
a good word. When they have the dreams, it's almost as if they can't distinguish whether it's a dream right away, and then they realize it, and then
Yes.
it's almost like a Freddy Krueger kind of a thing. And there some more information is divulged than what they show visually, which I think what they show visually is great. I really, like I said, I like the design of the fades and the creatures. And the first time I saw the glowy-eyed guy in the dreams, I was like, ooh,
I love that that's how we have
that's
to refer
spooky.
to him, because they haven't explained who he is.
Yeah.
that's spooky.
Glowy eyes guy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
man.
it's Ember Eyes.
He looks like a turtle to me. Like I can't take him seriously right now, but that's okay.
I think we should go in and break down episode 5 and get into more specifics. Before we do that, there are a few corrections I wanted to mention from our last episode.
Okay, good.
Were you going to bring it up?
No. But I was reading through the comments too, and I was like, "Yeah, I researched that as well." Afterwards, like all these things.
I was wrong about one thing. There were in episode 4. Yes, in episode 4, there was no brown. There was no brown Aes Sedai. In my defense, Kareen, who is the character I was referring to, she's a green She's a green Aes Sedai, green Aja. Her green outfit was a darker green from the other Aes Sedai, who were very bright.
It is.
And when she was in the dark cave where there was no lighting, it looked brown to me.
Sure.
I was wrong. They were all green or red Aja, but Nathan got some stuff wrong too.
I
baby.
sure did.
Nathan, you said that there were lots of Aes Sedai that got killed in the battle, and that is definitely false. There is a shot of a red Aja getting hit by arrows, and she's immediately healed by one of the green sisters.
Yeah, I was seeing that too, because you even see that in the 5th episode a little
Yeah,
bit. at the very
and
beginning.
exactly. It starts off with the funeral. Kareen or Karene, not sure how it's pronounced. She's the only Aes Sedai who gets killed in that fight.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
I
guess-
didn't think it was super clear.
I think
So-
I assumed they
He's
were
the only warder who melts the ring. So,
Well, yeah, in the 5th episode,
Right.
you
That
see
is
that
true.
context, but not in the 4th episode at all. So
yeah.
I watched episode 4 and 5 back to back since I started this weekend, and it felt very much like we're burying everyone on both sides. And I think because I saw
Yes.
like the king who was working for the false dragon had like a red robe on under his armor, and I think I saw shots of that, and I thought, some Aes Sedai got killed too, and I thought then they just focused on the one but it makes sense that they would be uber powerful and hard to kill.
There
There's
was,
a good
there
comment,
was a red
too.
sister who gets hit by like 5 arrows, though. It was 3. But
Yeah. I'd like to just say though, I love the choreography of the warders and the Aes Sedai fighting together. From episode 1, I think that was my favorite part of episode 1, were the shots of Moraine and Lan fighting the Trollocs, and Lan like defending her while she did the magic. Like really,
Yeah.
good job
that was
on
awesome.
that.
yeah, we've all talked about how much we
I
like
agree.
that.
Sorry, I'm late to the party.
Gosh.
Well, I think, and maybe this is a good
We're saying
spot
we
to
agree
bring
with
it up,
you.
but So episode 5, I think. So I was watching a lot of stuff afterwards too. Some of the behind the scenes and some of what Rafe Judkins was talking about for this episode, and this episode specifically focuses a lot more on that connection, like this water and Aes Sedai connection, which and that's why I'm excited, right? Because of what they're like setting up for the future. Because I'm like, there's so like the books are all about this connection and all about this one power and all about these warders and their experience and the Aes Sedai and the politics. And so it's neat to see that in these episodes. And like you were saying, Tanner, like it's so nice to see how visually you can see how they are so close and they work so well together. So they've done a great job with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that aspect too. And then one more correction is about Winter Night. It is Winter Night, not Winter's Night. And in my defense, I said I wasn't sure which one it was. But Winter Night is the holiday that signals the end of winter. So it is in spring. And then it is that Winter Night is the night. The next day is Beltane. So it's technically 2 holidays. It's the same holiday, guys.
It is connected to like the UK Beltane, though. It's 100% what they were talking about, just like a bastardized version, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Kind,
yeah.
So. I researched that too.
They just put in a space. That's the difference.
Yep. Completely different though.
Yeah, that's all the corrections I have. So episode 5 starts with the funeral burying the dead, and you see, like Tanner said, you see them burying the King of Gildon. Those are not just Aes Sedai bodies. That's everyone who died in that battle.
Yeah, which I thought was like not a lot of people actually. So interesting.
It seemed like a small group that was, we didn't really see an army fighting in episode 4.
Well, they probably buried the other people elsewhere so they could make that really pretty design. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that shot was made for the trailer, which was a great shot in the trailer.
We're going to bury 15 people here.
Was it made for the trailer, or was it made for you to put your body all around in your recap wrap?
Guys, we have 18 bodies. Sorry, we only have room for 15. But
sorry. Yeah, I thought that. Well,
maybe they doubled up. They dug really deep and then stacked them.
Yeah, dude, like, how's that going to protect you? You're not. What? Animals going to get to them. What are you doing?
Like if you think about it, that's like psychopath level. That's what serial killers do. Like they arrange the bodies and.
Yeah, but it looked real pretty.
I'm sure they think that too, David.
I thought they were at least gonna, like, I don't know, cover them with the one power or something, but they just left it there.
That
so
would've been cool. That would've been
it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so we get a funeral and we see Steppen being sad, and then we just skip a whole month.
I didn't like that. I don't know if it's just because the first book is all about
the journey
to Tar-Valon, and they haven't even gotten there yet in the book, and some of the stuff that is happening in episode 5 happens in another city, and so I was like, what? You're just gonna skip a month, especially because
they're skipping over Camelin entirely. In season 1. And that's coming up in season 2.
And
unfortunately,
just the whole fact that I already felt, okay, this is really rushed compared to the experience of reading the book, which is where it's very J.R.R. Tolkien. Let's walk through the woods and talk about all the tree branches and stuff. Like, it's very much about the journey, and then it just skips ahead a month. And I would have liked some kind of, maybe like a montage if you are gonna skip that far ahead.
Yeah, put some like music
Travel
on,
montage,
show them walking
something
over a
with
mountaintop.
Rand
like, this is Lord of the Rings. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, something with Rand and Matt to kind of, because it felt weird too, jumping from this one group who you spent most of episode 4 with, and you end episode 4 on, and then it just jumps right to, oh, here's Rand and Matt. Rand and Matt, and Matt's sick, and he's not doing too hot, and And that's it. So that was I kind of a bummer to me. I think they could have done a bit more instead of 1 month later.
I could see that for sure. It's definitely not something I enjoy in TV or movies when they kind of cop out like that. I kind of appreciated it to a degree because I feel like you don't really see a lot of the passage of time when you're reading the books. Even
At
when you
all.
finish them, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
well, how long did that take? I don't know. Like it was a long time, but
Yeah.
it really wasn't. So
I thinking about it now, I think the rest of the episode, the characters and like the writing did good at showing the change in between.
Yeah, they do
A whole
specifically bring up dialogue between the characters to kind of bridge the gap. Like you have
Yeah.
Matt and Rand talking in the inn, saying all implying that they've been talking about what happened in episode 4 for a while.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that kind of helped. I understand the change. I mean, I understand why they would have to skip forward a month. I don't particularly love the change, but I also really don't know how to do it any other way. Because you don't want to just watch them travel for the rest of the season.
Maybe we can get a Wheel of Time extended edition.
It's
if it
it's
gets
just
popular
walking.
enough. Yeah. I mean, I like the Lord of the Rings extended edition. There's stuff where I'm like, oh well, you learned that in Two Towers. Like you don't.
yeah.
So, but
In this-
I agree. It's like how else are you gonna do it? I may not like it, but
Well,
There's
yeah,
a lot of that traveling too. Sorry, I keep.
No,
talking.
go ahead,
Sorry,
Nate.
you go. I was just gonna say there's a lot of that traveling, and so I could see why they just need to kind of push things forward and plot wise. But just putting a month later is the thing that bothers me. I'm like, you could show passage of time in a better way than that. Like even if it's just a 2-second thing or
Yeah,
a visual
maybe-
thing.
Yeah, maybe they could have done something where like they showed the color of the trees change or something like that, or like
Well, yeah, but that
you know,
the
I mean,
seasons are kind of
theoretically, yeah.
Or they could have had Matt and Rand in the hotel or whatever, saying, "Hey, we've been here for a month. Where are the other guys?" or something. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
But I
we
agree,
actually
there's other ways of showing
we-
the passage of time.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I keep interrupting. We have
Go
a
ahead.
comment. We have a comment from a viewer, D Rock 222. He says nothing happened in the month they skipped. Like it would have been Matt and Rand going to random inns and repeating
Exactly.
the same Dark Friend process.
Yeah.
Correction: they would have also been playing the flute and dancing.
Not in this version though.
actually juggling.
Juggling, yeah.
See,
Juggling,
that's
not dancing.
perfect music in the background for a montage of the
Yeah,
rest of the guys traveling.
Honestly, yeah.
See?
Honestly,
Perfect.
I would have appreciated a juggling montage, except that they would have still had to have been with Tom.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me started on Tom. Like I'm in book 1 right now, and I loved everything about Tom, and I loved that when they get separated, he's like, guys, I'm coming. I'm gonna take charge with you guys and you get all that backstory, and they did it in part of 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I was real bummed, but again, I get the changes that you need to make this.
Yeah.
Stu Floater also says Rand also does the King of the World thing on the boat.
Yeah, Bail Doman we don't meet yet either. So
I'm the
that's
King of the
another person.
World.
Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately, I think what happens though is it's like, hey, what's the most important stuff we got to keep, right? It's
Yeah.
like there's so much story, right? There's so much story in these 14 books that it's like, okay, what do we keep? What do we tell? And that's honestly, I think they've done a good job because they're telling the key elements, right? Like, yeah, we may not get as many details about, hey, their time in this inn or whatnot, but like there's a lot of development where it's like, okay, this is key to the rest of the story.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, it's been pretty well what they've had to keep and take out, with one exception, which I think we can't talk about until later. Well, I want to get into in more detail later, but I think Rand's character is pretty underdeveloped in the show. Everyone else has gotten some pretty good highlights, and Rand is kind of just the friend.
Yeah, I was gonna say while watching this episode that Rand and what's the girl's name?
Egwene or
Egwene?
Nynaeve? Which one?
Egwene.
There's too many girls in the
I
Wheel of
know.
Time.
The other girl
for you to just say, what's the girl's name?
Egwene.
The one that could be the dragon, but it's not in the books because it has to be male. It's Egwene, right?
Yeah.
And Rand, I was saying those are the only two that we haven't seen any tie to magical abilities. And then episode 5 happened, of course.
They show Egwene channeling in episode 3. Two.
Do they?
Yes. Moiraine takes her out and shows her a pendant and that glows.
That's right. Yeah,
Possibly in 3 too because of the fire thing. And
Yeah,
then in 4 they talk about is he as powerful as Egwene? When they talk about Logain when he asks her that. So they haven't shown it, but I guess the dialogue's been there.
Yeah. But anyway, so now after episode 5, Rand is the only one that we haven't seen any kind of magical
they show
connection.
him breaking down a very strong door in episode 3.
And he's just a really good friend, guys. Can we just acknowledge that? Just really good friend.
He's a really
real good friend.
Underdeveloped friend so far. Let's get back into breaking down the episode. Lan and Moiraine talk about Nynaeve as they're traveling to Tarvalin. It's not a super important scene, but you get kind of hints at her channeling stuff. Matt hits a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I really did.
I think it was a pretty good way of kind of showing his paranoia and like you could see like afterwards he was like, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
And then they later have the conversation in the inn where they've clearly been talking about this. Matt thinks he killed the family. And they keep saying, no, it was the Fade. It was definitely the Fade. We get our first shot of Dragon Mountain Tarvalin, which is really well done.
Yeah,
then we get into the White Tower. And we finally get to see Nynaeve and Moiraine butting heads, which we haven't been able to see yet because Moraine's been unconscious.
Yeah, she's not that unconscious in the first book.
She's not.
Cool.
Was
the actresses?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to make it. Was the actress was she busy on another schedule? So they just get a body double and like, oh, she's on. Again, adaptation's going to be different.
You know what? Just say that I'm incapacitated, and I'll just no. Two things I wanted to know when we start going into the White Tower. First of all, we have that finally. The do not underestimate the women in this tower line, which was like part of the trailers.
Yes.
So it was nice to see where that finally came in.
And
there was a lot with that.
And Nynaeve's immediate response is, maybe you shouldn't underestimate me.
Yeah.
And then Moiraine rolls her eyes, and I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, that
you're so cocky.
I know one thing. She heals the cave, and all of a sudden she thinks she can do everything.
I feel like I'm really dogging on this episode, and I apologize, but did anyone else or feel or notice when watching it that the White Tower set was literally just like Shadar Logoth or Shadar Logoth? But with like plants.
Yeah, my wife picked that out too, and when she said that, I'm like, yeah, it does look like the same exact city as the dark Shadow Logoth city.
Yeah, we're talking about the city shots or inside the tower.
Inside the city,
going through the streets.
Yeah,
like where they're parading the false dragon through town.
Which
all
I
those
get.
shots, they look just like the other city, and I don't know if there's something like in the book that I just assumed it was, based on similar architecture. But yeah, they look like the same alleyways.
They were kind of built around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that actually could make sense.
I mean, yeah, I could see that.
And then the set designer said, "We can just use this twice."
That's
so
what exactly. They're like,
They haven't had to blow it up.
Painted coat.
Yeah, they
Put some
painted some
flowers
walls.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were both Ogier made, I believe. They talk about that. By the way,
yes.
just
Mhm.
answering like a comment.
I hope.
Yes, they are.
I liked. I liked Loyal. I liked the design. I had just read that part in the book, and I liked, again, the makeup and design. I think is really great to make these creatures come to life. So I liked him.
Do we want to talk about
Yeah.
Loyal? How are we
Um,
all feeling about that character?
Yes, let me make
Is it
sure we
lo-
just haven't.
They said it. They pronounced it a little bit differently in the show, though.
They're
didn't
pronouncing a lot of things differently in the show.
What? How did they say it? Because I don't know if I caught that.
I think
don't
they said
remember. It was like-
Loyal.
Loyal, yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, we can get to Loyal. Let me just make sure we haven't,
Yeah.
because I got it all mapped out from the show. To not even Moraine butt heads, I liked that because it happens a lot in the books, and we didn't get to see it until now. But I liked that they don't see eye to eye, but they're still cordial.
Cordial.
And then I loved the advice that Moraine gave to Nynaeve. The White Cloaks and Tinkers, just
Ooh.
backhanding them.
Yeah, can I add to that point? So I had it. So when I was watching that, and I thought this was kind of funny because you know when at first like they kind of sneak away. So they sneak away, right? Like
Yeah.
and I had this thought. I was like, right, and the White Cloaks aren't gonna like watch them sneak away. and then they got caught, and I was like, oh,
immediately.
okay.
Jared was probably like, "Yeah, oh dang." I mean,
Well, no, I was like, that's kind of a stupid plot point where literally they get away from these guys, even though they were like the main focus. They just magically slip away, even though they ran up the hill, like clearly in view. So I was like, okay, that's good writing,
Yeah.
where they didn't let something stupid like that destroy that scene.
I just love how they're peeking out too. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on?
yeah, what?
Oh, these dudes that are killing everything they don't agree with are looking for us? Oh, let's keep looking.
I liked the dialogue though between not, why can't I remember his name?
Aram?
Valda. Eamon
Oh,
Valda.
Valda.
Between Valda and I think last episode I accidentally called him Pedro Nile at one point, but I know the difference. It was a slip up. That was another correction. Between Pedro Nile and the Lady Tinker, and how I like the interpretation of their pacifism. They just link arms. It felt just like very like tree huggers. We're gonna stand in front of this bulldozer, and but I liked it. It was very fitting.
Yeah,
it was.
I was worried about that too. I was like, what are they gonna do? They just stand there?
I liked how they didn't just do nothing. They like say like, hey, like, we're not going to fight you, but we're going to make you kill us if you want to, like. And then their solution is, okay, put your swords away. We're just going to punch everybody. Yeah, I thought it was very well done. And then the very next scene is Loyal, so we can talk about Loyal.
Well, do you want to, get all your excitement out first, Alan? Since you've been waiting so much.
I sang a song about it. I thought Loyal was great. His hair looked a little silly. It was a little bit too much.
I don't know I've ever seen a curly goatee before.
Yeah. I liked the beard aspect. I thought like the hair was just I liked what they were going for. It was just a little bit too much. But I loved the acting, I loved his voice, and I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I
I honestly was like, that's Loyal. Like, so I was a little nervous at first because I think it was it wasn't quite what I was expecting visually. But then as soon as he like started talking, and a few of these were like in the chats where
as soon as he spoke,
he has a conversation by himself pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so loyal. Like,
well, and they explain it too. Like he straight up says, like, "Oh, you people, you move so fast." And as he's saying that, like the characters have already
gone,
and he's still talking to himself.
Yeah, that was great.
I agree.
I really liked his character. And I loved that while he's very slow and methodical, he's also like really freaking useful. He doesn't waste any like he just go like, oh, I can go to the White Tower. I'll find Egwene for you, and he brings back Nynaeve. But
I did want to say I feel like I was more happy with him in the close-ups because when they do show the full body, it's like you lose some of that illusion, and he isn't as like big or tall or whatever that is. Which again, how are you going to do that in a show like this? Which I understand.
yeah,
But I agree.
But I like that he's girthy.
Characterization, yeah.
Like his
The voice
fingers
was
are, like,
great.
huge.
Yeah.
If you follow the Enneagram as like a personality type, I was like, wow, you're the 5-iest 5 I've ever seen in my entire life. Look it up if you don't know. But
Oh, dude.
but I agree with everything else he said.
Yeah, his nose and his hands, his fingers were really awesome.
I do
But,
wish they'd like pushed it a little more, just like slightly, so he's less human looking to some degree. But
So I hear there's a lot of backlash on how he looks compared to the book. So
It's not super accurate. Yeah.
So what is he supposed to look like in the books then?
He's supposed to have tufted ears. I don't
and
even know
eyebrows
what that means.
that like hang.
Yeah,
supposedly.
He's got mustache eyebrows, basically. Like,
yeah.
What is a tufted ear? Is that the pointy?
I think it's like an ear that goes like it has like hair coming out of it or something.
He's supposed to be taller.
I imagine it
was.
Yeah, I imagine tufted ears would be like a lynx or a bob. Like one of those cats that has like hair at the end that can sense,
like a lynx.
And that's what I was gonna say. That Nathan just mentioned was because again, like I read that part this week. He mistakes Loyal for a Trolloc, and that's why he draws the sword in the first place, is because they're paranoid that they're going to get killed, and so he's like, and then he realizes, oh wait, no, it's not a Trolloc. So he's a bit more monstrous and huge in the book.
And I love that Loyal doesn't even notice the sword.
Yeah, you're
like,
right.
Yeah, he doesn't care at all, and that's just so good, so true to his character. Like that, he doesn't even phase him because he's great.
I like too he's arguing about Rand about his heritage.
Yeah,
it was great.
I love that too. He's like, well, technically, Aiel, who doesn't think he's an Aiel, who he just like, I'm right actually, but I'll keep talking to you. I wanted to ask about the Koreathon cycle.
Yes, the Koreathon cycle, which
that
they
Rand
pronounce weird. The Koreathon cycle is how they said it, I think. Yeah, what did you want to ask about?
Well, I'm just wondering what you guys thought. I also wanted to ask if they explained how he knew about it, because they don't really.
I don't even think they said what it was, did they? He just
so maybe we can't talk about it yet.
It was literally just like it was just like the Koreathon cycle. Great. It's just a book about prophecies about the dragon.
Well, doesn't he also mention? I can't think of the word right now, but what is it? What are they called when they're like the cycle goes around them? We talked about it last time.
Taviran,
right? Like doesn't he actually call Rand Taviran
in the show? No.
Yeah, like in that episode. Like I thought, like when he first sees him, he's like, "Oh, you're Taviran."
I might have to watch it again.
He called him something in reference to the red hair, and that's something that Tom mentioned.
Well, he did that, But he also, I thought he'd mentioned that he was Taviran as well, and I thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, like it's interesting that he recognizes him as a Taviran, and then that could go into that cycle that you're talking about too, right? Where he's kind of got this background knowledge, this understanding of how significant that is. And to be honest, I thought that was interesting too, because it kind of explains why he lingers around Rand, right? Like he recognizes automatically, hey, this is somebody that's important that I need to stick around.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain he does not say Taviran in the show. But I think the fact that he just meets this Aielman and that he's curious is like a funny enough explanation that he's just gonna stick around.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely fits his character.
I like he just butts into their life like immediately. She's like, oh well, I'll go to the White Tower and find this lady for you.
No, honestly.
I really like it. And we also see the travels of Jane Farstrider, which they do explain.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, what? Because wasn't maybe I'm wrong, but in Eye of the World, doesn't he get reminiscent and nostalgic for the book that his dad wanted to read in that library?
I don't remember. I don't think it was
it a
connected to
different book?
Egwene specifically in the books. No.
Yeah, no. So again, I'm reading the Eye of the World right now, and I like that library scene because he's looking around and he sees like a leather-bound edition of the stories that his dad loved to read, and like has this whole thing about how he misses his dad, and that's one thing that I'm missing. I think
they
maybe
changed
with
it to
Rand's
Egwene.
character. Yeah. I think I texted you this, Alan.
It's the same book.
Okay,
It is the Legend of Jane
it's the
Farstrider.
same book,
Yes.
but they make it about Egwene and not his dad. And I hate the Rand Egwene romance in the show. Like, I don't know if there's more to it later in the series, but I hate it right now. Like, I think there's so much more linkage to home because, like, it seems like Rand is like, "Ooh, I miss Egwene," instead of "Holy
I miss
cow,
my
my
dad."
life is." It's all turned upside down, and I miss my dad. And like, they haven't talked about the sword as much, but again,
And is my dad even okay?
yeah, like I left him
Yeah.
dying,
Yeah,
and here his dad's like sitting up, and he's like, "Oh man, well, I hope you do okay, son. Bye bye." And it's like so much of Rand's character. I really love Rand right now because he's a lot of the focus of book one. But I love.
He's the only focus of book one.
Okay, all right. They jump between some other people, but
No, they don't. Not in book one.
Yeah, there's a couple of chapters with Nynaeve when they're
like
separate.
Two.
Yeah, or Gwen, I think too, or Perrin or someone.
Yeah, there's a few. There's a few. I make a joke.
I just was kind of like, oh, the book. Is he gonna say how he misses his dad? Oh, there's a girl. I don't know. I know I'm late to the party. I like that they're young and kind of inexperienced in the book, and here they're supposed to be like 20, and like, I just kind of bummed that you lose some of that coming of age storyline and kind of that loss of innocence that you get from them having to leave behind everything as like teenagers.
I agree with all of that, I think, and because we already talked about in the first time we did this how badly they've handled Rand's father in the show. So
I understand what they're trying to do with Egwene, though, because there is no romance really in the first book, and if this is going to work as like a TV series that works for a very broad audience, like they need to bring some of that in. Right. Yeah. So
and they're definitely doing a much better job with Nynaeve and Lan, which just is the worst in the books. It just really pops up out of nowhere.
Oh, good. I was just getting the first inklings of that whole plot line. So of the Land Nynaeve romance.
Yeah, there's no plot line until suddenly it's there.
It's not there at all. It's literally like one sentence, like, oh, and they start liking each other. What?
well, you get a whole bunch in the book of Nynaeve being like, and Land won't even talk to me, and I don't get that. And frankly, that's my way of romancing. Is if I'm into someone, I can't even talk to them. So I'm like,
that really speaks to me.
Like I was picking up on, I get Lan. I get what he's doing here. Where Yeah, it probably is going to come out of nowhere. But
I mean, that's like really clear in the episodes, though, so I don't feel bad about talking about that.
Yeah, someone said spoiler alert. Like,
yeah, I'm like, that's so.
It's been like overt in the show, and it doesn't
So
exist in
overt.
the books. Okay,
I'll do my best to keep my insights on the first book
no,
down.
that's all good. That's good.
I mean, who isn't into Lan though? Let's be honest. We're all
Lan's
into Lan at this
awesome.
point.
He's so cool.
Like, get it.
Book and
I'll spend
TV show
yep.
Lan.
Yeah, yes. Lan, I'm hearing, is amongst non-book readers is just a fan favorite.
And book readers. I'm just gonna say it.
That's not incorrect.
Though again, no butts, no more butts, guys.
no
I
more
can't know if I'm
butts.
disappointed or
happened to the
not.
butts?
I really can't. I'm like a little disappointed, but also like.
Episode 1 set a precedent that has just not been followed up very well.
Nathan, did you watch episode 1 with your parents too? So you got that nice situation where it's just
I
all
watched
looking
it
at Lan's
independently before, and then I
Okay.
watched it with my dad, and was like, "Just so you know, there's gonna be a butt here," and he was like, "Eh," like he didn't care at all. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the episode. So we Rand and I Eilman. Oh, and I thought it was interesting though, despite changing the focus from Rand's father to Egwene, how perceptive Loyal's character is in that scene. Like, it wasn't super obvious that Rand got sad when he saw the book, and Logain instantly just like, why is it sad? Why are you sad?
I mean,
This is a happy book.
Loyal. Yeah,
Sorry,
I said
Logain.
You just called Loyal Logain, yeah.
There's so
Which
many
would be-
names in the Wheel of the
Leandrin.
Times.
When Leandrin was talking to him. Right?
Sorry, when Loyal just immediately picks up, and I think that's a really cool way of kind of showcasing like kind of his race. Like they're a lot older, and they're super perceptive.
Yeah.
And I think that really works for his character, especially showing in later when he just shows up with Nynaeve. And we get a lot of the city, and we get our first look at novices in the streets.
Yes.
Right
and
before-
other things in the streets that we can't talk about yet until major spoilers later.
Oh, is that who like the girl?
You can
Just
say, you
kidding.
can say
The girls
it. Like
with the drums, are those the novices?
Yeah.
I didn't
think
not
so.
not the drums,
No.
not the drums. No,
No.
They're in white. They're all white, and they have like a spiral
Yep.
white thing going down their arm. There's a shot of them walking through the street, and later there's a shot of them walking through the White Tower when Moraine is talking with Leandrin.
I think it's right before the drums, though, Tanner.
okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why.
They walk right in front of another character that David noticed, actually, and I was surprised.
Yeah, I noticed the. Okay, we talk about it now, or are you gonna?
I think we should
Go with
wait
the other
because that's a
spoilers.
pretty major spoiler.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the episode. He's there. We can't talk about what happens, but
I mean, I think it kind of does lend to talking about what happens, though, and so I feel
Yeah.
like we should wait.
Yeah,
Thank
probably.
you. I
All right,
appreciate
we'll wait for
that.
the
Needless to say,
spoilers.
there is a secret character in that
there's
scene.
a secret character, and he shows up before that too. You see like the back. You don't see him very much. You see his hand. With an audio cue. Yeah.
Wait. Was he in episode 1?
No. Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. I thought you were.
This secret character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I did see that. I don't know the
Okay.
extent of it, but I know who you're talking
Yes. The first time you
about
see
now. I thought
you,
it was like
you see him when they're going into the inn, and he's whistling. You see his hand, and then you see him a second time right behind the novices.
Mhm.
okay. Maybe I don't know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's
we
okay.
know.
We
I
can
think
talk
we know.
about it a little more when we get there.
It's a major spoiler, so.
Yes, but you get to see novices again in the White Tower, and then Logain. So Logain's paraded through the streets. Rand and Matt are up in the building, making a suicide pact. Kind of.
Just on someone's balcony, too. Like,
I think it would be funny. My impression, I get that that's what they were agreeing to, but just Rand saying, "No, you'll never be like that," but Matt being like, "No, I want you to," pretty much implying, "I want you to kill me if I get that bad." I just think it would be funny if Rand didn't pick up on that and was like doing like, "Hey, Matt, let's do some meditation and like positive thinking and stuff." When Matt, if Rand goes evil, is just going to stab him with a knife. I think that would be pretty funny and kind of in character for the show here. But good conversation between friends.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think I started saying this and then got on a tangent, but I was impressed, David, that you noticed the secret character, because I didn't see him until I watched it the second time.
Yeah, I saw him.
But the first time you saw him immediately.
His second time he shows up, I saw him immediately. Like, that looks like this, and I had to rewind it and like, yep, that's the character we saw before. Like I said, I don't know his character significance at all because I haven't read the books, but I noticed him from before.
That's impressive.
I thought he was a cool, eccentric character.
I also didn't notice, so I was like impressed by that.
Where are you guys? You're supposed to be like scrutinizing every little detail.
Okay,
here
in my
I am,
defense,
a non-book reader.
the first time I watched the episodes, it's with my wife, and I spend 80% of the time explaining the show. So
Fair point.
Well, and they were subtle. They were really sneaky about it. Like, seriously, I had to go back.
It was sneaky, yeah.
And I was like, dang, that was sneaky.
Yes. So Logain's paraded through the streets, and he and I want to talk again about this
Maniacal laughs, basically.
In full spoilers. But yeah, I loved his laugh. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Ominously.
And then we get the warder kind of funeral ceremony thing with the melting the rings down.
That was cool.
I thought that would be more like a spectacle, but it was just him in the room melting the ring down. I thought it would be more, formal ceremonial thing, but it was good.
I will add, though, I was watching it with my sister too, and she was like, "One ring to rule them all." I couldn't stop laughing a little bit, but
but it was some nice little, like wordless world building. And then after all of that boring stuff, I joke. I loved it, but Egwene and Perrin, after like 5 episodes of being the worst plot line, finally have like the best plot line. With the White Cloaks and getting tortured. How'd we like that?
That was fantastic.
I think I don't know if this is something you brought up in another video out, but like the braids being significant and just like some good characterization of when Egwene is, like being forced to tap into the one power as if she were like an Aes Sedai, her hair is unbraided. And the same thing in episode 4 with I don't know if I'm saying her name wrong, Nynaeve. Like when she tapped into the power, her braid came out
too. Yeah, I noticed that.
So like some good characterization of, because Nynaeve hates the Aes Sedai and abhors like using the power, right? Even though, and then she used it, and so that goes against their oath as the wisdoms or whatever it might be.
That's such an interesting call out. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I'll have to rewatch that. That's interesting.
Yeah, me neither.
I noticed Nynaeve was gone because the second time I watched it, I specifically looked because I was like, okay, her hair's still in braids. Her hair's still in braids. Her hair's still in braids. And then when she has that moment, there's like weird stuff going on.
When Nynaeve explodes with healing, her hair is still braided, but the braids float into the air. It actually looks kind of a little weird.
Yeah, it does.
Like her dreads came out of the plate, like the long braids
Yes, they were no
Younger
longer
back, but
in the
they're-
big,
they're kind of
the braided
Yeah.
braid. Yes, and with, I don't know, did in the show they don't show Egwene undoing her braid, do they?
Mm-mm.
Because that's made a point in the books.
Yes.
Has it still been braided though? I feel like until
Yes.
this moment.
I don't know. I'm not
And-
sure.
until the White Cloaks, which, what a way to open the torture of just not like anything violent, but just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, when they were giving her a sponge bath.
Yeah,
Yeah. My wife was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And I was just jokingly like, what are you talking about? That she's having a spa day. She's like, no.
But she has with the Tinkers, she's got her hair braided up until that point in the show.
I did think that was a nice moment though, in like world building again. This, and I know he mentions that she kind of smelled like, and maybe that was why, but it seemed almost like a purification ritual to some degree. Like
Yes.
before going and being tried, we're gonna like have this purification ritual. You're gonna be put on this white pristine robe. So even though I didn't really love some of the scene and what happens in it, I thought that was really interesting.
Can you not talk about what you didn't love?
I can, but it's a little later in like this. Are we doing like plots again, or are we going through the actual episode? That's the question, because that happens a little later.
Okay, yeah, I guess that it comes back to them.
Yeah, I did want to say though, it called back to, and this continues to happen where we have a question in one of the earlier episodes, and we're like, well, they said
Yes.
this, and I don't know how I feel about this, or maybe they're doing this,
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. And then in the later episode, they'll explain it and clarify it, and I'm always like,
The hands.
he did it, because they specifically talk about the hands and
Yes.
why he takes the hands, and that it's not actually needed to use the one power, but it's like a crutch.
Most of them can't do it.
Yeah. And we called that out specifically, and then for him to say almost exactly what we had said in those, like, in our questioning of it, was so like, yeah, it was really nice validation, and also, again, world building, really.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good tidbit as well.
Yeah, it was a fun little torture scene. Tanner's dropped out, but when he comes back on, we will add him. There he is.
He really hated what I just said, like really.
Yes, it was pretty
Hey, did I drop?
Hey, you're on the bottom now. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh,
Ah,
Oh, I move people around.
I know how that feels. No worries.
jeez.
why am I switching? I'm like switching. back and
Nathan,
forth.
yes, you were exactly the.
I'm trying to. There we go. I don't know. There we go. That's a good grouping.
my computer froze up, so sorry.
All good.
Yeah, I thought that too, though, Nate. I was like, yeah, we talked about that. So I'm glad they called it out, because I think, too, that's probably been a discussion or like a topic of discussion for a lot of book readers. So,
And we also get Perrin finally saying, telling Egwene what he did,
Yes.
which I thought was handled really well.
Yeah, in fact, my
Oh,
only
yeah.
critique is that I almost wish they hadn't shown him do it in the first episode.
Ooh,
Like, I wish they had just taken that whole part out, and
Hmm.
then you're seeing him brooding and weird, and you're not really
He
understanding it
comes out with her
until this
body, and
moment
he's brooding.
where he confesses it to her, and suddenly you understand why he's been slightly like off.
so
And
they
weird.
kind of do like this whole thing they're doing with Matt, where they're like, did he kill them or did he not? Like,
Well, I wish that had
Yeah.
been the case, because it wasn't, right? We know explicitly in the first episode that he does kill him.
I
You're
really,
right, Nathan.
I really like that idea. I think it would have been off-putting for 4 episodes, though.
Well, yeah,
For
possibly.
people like, why is this?
Maybe.
Everyone like, why
Well,
is this
that's why
character being so weird?
I think they could have had him mourning more, though. You see him actually mourning more instead of just being kind of silent and withdrawn. And then finally in that episode where he like breaks and he says like that, I feel like could have been so much more impactful if we hadn't understood explicitly.
Was it in episode 4 or episode 5 where he's talking with the Tinkers, and the Tinkers like, "Have you picked up an axe?" Was that
Yeah.
4?
It was 4.
It's in 4,
Yeah,
right?
see,
so there's
so-
all this alluding to it,
Yeah,
but we as an
so-
audience already know. So it's like,
That could
You're
have
right,
been,
Nathan. That could have been really good. He could have been mourning the whole time, and then episode 4, when she says, "Have you picked up an axe?" we see the flashback
Did it
of
bring?
what happened.
Was it good for your life or bad for your life? Essentially,
Yeah.
what she says. That's not. She says it much more poetically than how I just did.
But yeah,
anyways, that's like my one thought here. But
Yeah, I think that would. I like it. I don't know how well it would have worked. I think it would have been off-putting for the audience, but
maybe.
it would have been a great reveal for episode 5. I think it would have hurt the other episodes a little too much.
I feel like they could have done it, but again,
Because again,
he really disagrees. But that would have made it.
I
so that,
like the idea though.
so that he had to have more going on with him, because really in those 3 episodes you don't really know what's going on with him. He's quiet, he's silent, he doesn't really say a lot, he's just kind of there, like,
Mhm.
and withdrawn. So that's where I think even if you had upped like the morning, or
It definitely could have worked.
but that's just me.
Yeah.
Well, no use crying over spilled Wheel of Time milk. So
Wheel of Time milk. That's what we're
I was-
calling it.
I slowed down there because I was trying to think of a pun, and
Yep.
it didn't come to me. So then we get a bunch of White Tower politics. We get Nynaeve talking with Steppen. And we get Nynaeve also then talking with Leandrin. Kind of right after each other.
Mother's
Leanne.
milk in a cup.
Yeah.
Well played. That would have been better. You lost an opportunity there.
I did. I'm sorry. I failed everyone. I thought. I mean, Nynaeve and Steppen was a good scene. I mean, it was kind of obvious what was going on with Steppen's character. I don't think anyone was surprised by the end of the episode, right?
Wow,
You were?
well, at least I don't know how far we want to get ahead, but I mean, like, I got why he would be asking for medication to help him get to sleep. I was surprised by
It's eventual use.
its use. Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
I agree.
But I loved the conversation between Nynaeve and Leandrin. My wife said she picked up a lot of lesbo vibes from Leandrin.
100%.
Yeah,
She like caresses Marine's cheek at one point.
Yeah.
It's kind of
And
like,
not just, and she does like a one finger. Right?
yeah, which is different than like she
Like
really
if it
went
was
in
a
there.
sisterly, like, oh, I care about you. It's like, ooh, I care
Yeah.
about you.
but I'm really liking Leandrin's character in the show, and she's immediately just like hated in the books.
Yeah.
I haven't met her yet. But that is one thing I've appreciated about the show is getting into the Aes Sedai politics and like all that stuff. Not something that I've gotten to see, and I think that's a very nice part of the story, kind of a different area of conflict that now I get to enjoy maybe a bit earlier, learning, because you get kind of the public opinion of the Aes Sedai in the first book, that some are like, oh, they're okay, oh, they're great, oh, they're terrible, they're evil. And now seeing that I thought the Aes Sedai were just one big group, but now seeing that there's different factions in them, it makes sense why people would have different opinions based on who they interact with.
Yeah, that's what it is. I don't know how to comment on
Yeah,
that.
that's
This
pretty
is right.
much the rest of the books. There's a lot of that. So
I
So-
think it's nice to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So is a lot of that politics not in the first book?
No, it's
But
in the
a
books,
big
not in
part
book
of
one.
all the other books. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
I was gonna say I like how they keep alluding to and like bringing up how Moraine isn't in the tower, like how she's so separate from everyone.
As she's always gone,
Yeah,
and so
they've done a real good job of that.
losing control of the White Tower politics intricacies. Yes, I just got lost. 17. We get back to Loyal being out, which we already talked about, bringing Nynaeve back. Which I thought worked really well because, like, the last scene, you see her, you see Leandrin saying, "Hey, go check out the gardens," and then it's just Loyal found her wandering the gardens because that's where he would have gone.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Well, and if you know anything from the books about Ogier,
Just the little that I've learned meeting him, I was like, oh yeah, he would be in the garden. Like
the first place he would have gone to in the tower would be the garden.
I like too that it was I'm blanking on her name, the blue
Nynaeve?
Aes Sedai lady,
Moraine.
Moraine. Yeah, Moraine said that she would find her friends and bring her to her, bring Nynaeve to her when she found them, and it was Loyal that found him first. So
I thought that moment was nice. I've seen some criticism of it online, but honestly, when I watched it, I like laughed in a good way. I was like, "Oh, that's great!" Like,
when he
that's
just
a
shows
great
up.
little, yeah. So I really liked how they did that as well.
Sorry, Alan, I don't mean to
No.
cut you off just real quick. I think it fits into Loyal's character, and based on what you guys have said so far, I hope there's more of him in the books to come. Just that he's like, I could tell by her braid that, and like they're having this emotional reunion, and he's just like
Still talking,
rambling
yes.
in the background.
Yeah,
About
like
the
great
braid
character.
and like how it's a
It's a classic.
symbol.
He
of,
starts
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
no,
the
I agree.
culture, and I've read in books about this, and he just like doesn't shut up, and like you just hear them like slowly turning down his audio in the mixing room, like.
But you can still hear him in the background.
Yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of Loyal, and then Nynaeve talks to Rand once again about Egwene.
I hate it. Sorry.
Yeah, they should be talking about his dad more. I agree.
Wasn't this the scene too where Nynaeve is there trying to help Matt,
Yes.
which gets pretty spooky?
Yeah, and he yells at her, and then she just tells him to go to bed.
Yep.
Right.
Isn't that the solution to everything? If you're cranky, had a bad day, possibly possessed by a demon, just take a nap.
Or channeling, just take a nap.
No tea, no poultice, no burning sage. Just take a nap.
100%.
Yeah.
And I like how they talk about how they can't trust the Aes Sedai.
Yeah, they don't know where they should continue on to the White Tower or what. But that was good.
Yeah, it gets a little bit more of Rand's character, which we don't get to see his distrust of the Aes Sedai immediately in the show that is in the books. And then they mention, they talk about Egwene's backstory, almost dying as a kid, but how she's unbreakable, foreshadowing. And then we get Moraine and Leandrin sparring in the White Tower as well, with the second shot of the novices and more Lesbo vibes. And Persimmons. Persimmons was when she talked to Nynaeve. I don't have anything to say about that scene. I thought it was good to show, they're not all on the same page.
You start to see that more about the politics, but how they're like coveting Nynaeve almost.
Yeah, they
right?
all
like,
want
the
to
yellows are going to try to
have
get
her.
her, but
The Reds
everyone's
and
going to
everyone's going to want her.
Yeah.
Then we get Lan and Steppen talking about Forsaken.
Also, again in this scene. The Forsaken part was amazing, but there were some like real like some vibes going on. Like I was like, what is gonna happen in this scene? My dad is here. Like, again. Sorry. But yeah, Forsaken. Let's talk about that.
The Forsaken. We got nice little statues for all of them, which is cool.
Is that something that's because I think they just said that they sold their souls and then
they sold their
locked
souls
away.
to serve the Dark One in return for eternal life, is what the show says.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think they say Forsaken actually.
Immortality.
Yeah.
But they do say Ashamael. I feel like they name him.
Yes, because he says he's warding Lan asks which of the Forsaken he's warding off, and he says, "I'm trying to ward off Ashamael, the father of lies." I think.
Yeah, yes.
I really love
what
that
he said.
scene though, and having them kind of pan through all of the statues and being like, "Oh, I think that. Oh, that one.
There-
Okay. Oh, wait."
Well, it also shows. Oh, there's a lot of servants of the dark.
But it's a nice like culture thing too, right? It's almost like
It
I don't
brings
know.
in culture, it brings in world building, and it brings in
so good.
it brings in exposition, all just seamlessly. It was a very good scene.
Again, just
did-
like the great writing in general.
Yeah, I gotta say, the first couple of episodes, I think those moments where the characters kind of pause and they talk about like the history of the world, with like Step in this episode talking about like how he met his Aes Sedai and the statues that they were his mother's and it was something that she did. Those humanizing but also world building moments are really good. I think my favorite part of the series so far has been, it was episode 2, I think, when they're first on the road and the kids start singing the song and then Moraine explains the meaning of it. That was a beautiful scene. And I think it's a real credit to the writers that they can cover character moments and world building and exposition in these very good humanizing scenes, and the actors, they bring it to life, so they're fantastic.
I'm glad to hear that, because I would think that scene was pandering to book readers. the Wheat from an Etherin song, and I'm so glad that it was in there, but I wasn't sure if non-book readers would have liked that part.
It might be because I'm reading book 1 right now, and it felt more like the style and kind of that slow burn, and like, oh, they're on the trail talking to each other, and like time is passing, and maybe that's why I liked it. Is because I was like, ooh, this is more like what I know so far.
I love that part too, and like, I don't know, the significance of it or the history behind it, but I just love that they were singing the song that they had learned. And then Moraine was like, "Let me tell you the history of that song."
Yeah,
that I thought that was really cool.
Cool. That's comforting to hear.
Yeah.
And we're pretty much done with the episode. We get Moraine and Alana getting more exposition in bed with Persimmons, and a lot of foreshadowing that we can't mention yet. Anything noteworthy about that scene?
The end scene,
with Moraine and Alana, and then the next scene is Lan and Steppen and that.
I'm trying to remember. She says something at the end, right? I feel like there's like big dialogue, and then she like opens that little thing in her room, and it wasn't really clear what was.
Yeah, it was a
inside of
picture.
it.
It was a picture. I'm not 100% sure where they were going. I think that's where she keeps things.
It was like a photo of a lady
yeah,
looking out a window.
Yeah. That moment was interesting.
It was.
I think that's her hiding spot for some stuff that we can't talk about.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure. I need to watch that part again and maybe look a little
But-
closer. But it
Yeah.
seemed really important, and then
It
there
did
wasn't
seem
anything
important,
there.
and
so-
I didn't even know what it was.
Are we gonna throw
Um,
up the heavy spoilers and talk about everything
yeah.
else?
Well,
Did,
there's the seppuku and a tea, and then a funeral.
Yes.
So,
Did you guys talk about Egwene and Perrin running off?
Oh no,
when
we didn't.
When
The
I
end of
dropped out.
that. No, what
Oh.
happens to Green and Perrin? We have not gone over that yet. No.
Did I
Yeah.
imagine that scene?
no,
No.
I think I skipped it. Sorry. We started talking about it, and then we moved, and then we were like, "Oh, let's." It's
Well,
fine.
I don't think it all happened in one scene though. So
No,
we came
it
back
didn't.
to that
Yeah,
at
we
one
forgot to
point,
come back to it.
so-
So yeah, they torture scene. Valda, not
The White
Nile.
Cloak.
Yes,
Yeah, the white.
Eamon
Cloak.
Valda, and Perrin and Egwene, and we see Egwene channel a little, and I thought it was hilarious. It was so
Yeah, I
good.
laughed really hard.
Because I was worried it was going to be like a Mary Sue thing, and just because we've had to jump over so much, we've had to speed up the book so much that I was afraid it was just going to be a big moment, and the fact that it wasn't, it was so refreshing. I was like, yes, like yeah, she's clearly learning. She's tapping into the power, but she doesn't know how to use it yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it
it's
was really good.
Still
It was
shows how smart she is,
and then
because
she
that
breaks the
was
ropes.
obviously a distraction so that she could get Perrin out, so they could.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yep. But Perrin, can we just talk about this because
Yeah.
this was part of the reason. This was part of what was hard about this episode. Honestly, was this
The-
part.
The light protect me line, or
Yeah, that a little bit. Like he
Oh.
is really overreacting, and then you do start to see things happening with Perrin, and I just feel like they're so cheesy and not very well done, and it's like really frustrating me.
I don't think that Perrin demonstrated enough of a reason for Valda to just
No,
the light protect me. His eyes changed color slightly.
slightly.
I think they should have had a wolf crash.
Well, David, what do you think? Because at this point, you don't know what's going on at all, do you?
No, I don't. I mean, obviously he got some sort of connection with these wolves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But if I remember right, there was a little wisp of weave when Perrin broke out of his restraints, wasn't there?
Yeah, and that was Egwene.
It was
Yeah.
Egwene burning his rope. It showed her shoot
Oh.
the fireball at Eamon Valda, but then it showed her concentrating on the rope, and she burned.
Oh, okay.
But I only think she
I
burned
thought-
one of them, and I think he
Mhm.
broke the other himself.
Okay. I must have. I need to go back and rewatch that again. But I thought that was actually Perrin doing that.
My wife
that
thought so
weave.
too. My wife
So-
thought that he channeled the rope breaking.
Okay, so that's why I thought he was the White Cloak guy was surprised, is because he was expecting Egwene to do the channeling, and it was actually Perrin that did the channeling, broke himself free. But I need to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I do agree. He was a little bit too surprised. He just
Mhm.
broke out. So what? Restrain him.
And his eyes were weird.
Yeah.
I watched.
What's weird about yellow eyes, right?
I watched with subtitles, and this might be why he's scared. But
Okay,
the
yeah.
subtitles said in parentheses, low growling. And I
He
think,
does growl. Yes.
I think
when he
they were
comes up,
trying.
he does growl like a
I
wolf.
think they're trying to imply kind of that animalistic connection.
I
But
think
not
I think
great.
the scene would have worked a lot better if a wolf crashes into
Yeah.
the tent and then just stands next to Perrin. I think that would have demonstrated a little bit more what they were trying to demonstrate.
I mean, how spoilery are we getting here, though? Do we need to change the banner?
It's not
'Cause
super
I want to
spoilery.
get into it,
it's
but
pretty clear that he has a connection with the wolves, but
Yeah.
and his eyes changed color, which I don't understand. I really dislike, and this is just my opinion, but I really have a hard time when they use contact lenses for these sort of changes in
Mhm.
movies because they don't usually work very well and they end up being really cheesy. So I just feel like
do it
it
with
was
CGI.
really, yeah, do it CGI, or even like, how when you see animals' eyes in the dark and it's just like that kind of,
The
Kind of
glow.
like more
yeah,
of a glow
like do
than
something
a
like
color.
that, you know? but it just it was very disappointing, and I could not take it serious at all, and kind of just like laughed through that whole part and hated it.
I did
So-
not like Valda's reaction. But he
Yeah,
gets
I
stabbed,
agree.
and that made me feel good. So
But I did want to. So this is something I just remembered too that I thought was great about this episode. Did you guys catch the blood and ashes?
When?
They brought in the curse. They brought in the first curse, and
Who?
it was when Rand and Matt were walking through the streets. So they're going into the inn, and they like get hit
Oh,
by somebody, and Rand's like, "Oh, blood and ashes," and I was like, "Oh, they brought in the
they
curse."
finally they cursed.
I know, side topic, but I was pretty.
I
happy
feel
about
like I did catch it, but it didn't stick with me, obviously, because I
No,
couldn't have told
I
you when
didn't.
it
I
happened.
didn't. It didn't stick with me either.
it.
But that was
Wow,
fun.
guys, such an iconic book moment, and you guys didn't even. Wow, I can't believe it.
Jared's over here like, Nynaeve isn't tugging her braid enough. She's only tugged it one time. I hate this whole TV show. Like, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of the episode. Stepan kills himself and drugs Lan, which I thought was very clever. It showed that it was very premeditated on his end. And because, I think we all assumed he was just going to drink too much and kill himself.
Yeah.
But then he would have known that Lan would have been by himself, because Lan has the line where he mentions he's been watching over him for the last month.
And he'll stay the whole night too, which is like,
Yeah. And so Stepan knows Lan's not going to let me kill myself. So I'm going to roofie him.
Yeah.
I in hindsight, right before the transition to where we learned that Lan was roofie, and they're just talking about how, like you gotta let love in, or else it's just enduring things. And then Lan is like, well, I can endure a lot. And then Stepan says, I know you can endure a lot. I thought
Yeah,
that was a great
that
line.
line was good.
That has some good double meaning of
It's like, I put in all of it.
extra.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really well done too, from like a mental health perspective. And him like faking like his next steps, right? He's talking about, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna get along with these new warders and like
really
all this
well
stuff. Yeah, really, really well done from a mental health perspective. And then having plotted this whole time, and just, I mean, it's heartbreaking. It's obvious to a degree, but it's
I think it's really smart for them to show this right off the bat, so we know like the consequences and the stakes later on. I mean, there's a lot of, the show's done a really good job of showing us these things, of showing us like pages and pages of exposition and lore through actions, and because this, not a lot of what happens in this episode is in the books, or if it is, it's in a different city. And I think it's a really good job of showing the lore of the bond between an Aes Sedai and a warder. Mm-hmm. And then it's shown really well in the funeral scene at the very end. Moraine doesn't get emotional until Lan does, and you can see it, like you can see her like get tugged when she starts to cry.
I was going to mention, that at the end, that connection between Lan and Moraine, the unspoken dialogue that happened at the very end. It was just very, very well done.
I also I loved that the funeral scene was great. And I literally finished the episode right before hopping on here, so it's that was like the last thing I saw. Mm-hmm. But just I think, and I mean, this is just me. I'm an English teacher, so I love thematic stuff and looking for motifs and themes. But this idea of connection between individuals is definitely kind of at the forefront of this series. You have the repeating cycles of lives coming back in and the connection through time. And then here, the ceremony, they said, Lan, lay your hand upon him so that we can let go of our grief. And it's like this collective connection of emotions and feelings in the culture of the Aes Sedai and the Warders. So I just awesome. And then what you guys already said about Moraine reacting when when Lan has that reaction.
And they've done it really subtly too. I feel like almost in every episode there's something that you can kind of see that they're connected. So
And to add to that too, I think that what I thought was interesting is that Lan's character, right, as a warder, tough guy, like for him to cry, that's just not really in his character, right? And so he lets out this scream, but then I thought what it was cool to actually see that reflected in Moraine, she's crying, right? So like she's doing the crying for him because he won't do it himself, but she is capable of doing that.
Yeah, and some people, when they saw the shot of Lan crying in the trailer from this episode, specifically Daniel Green, shouting you out. He's a famous YouTuber. They weren't too happy about that portrayal with Lan because Lan does not emote in the books.
Well, neither really do the Ice Guy.
He guards his emotions very strongly. But I liked how that's brought up here because it shows him keeping the emotions in the whole time. And he only releases those emotions in that very confined setting where it would have been appropriate. And everywhere else, he's like, I'm not showing my sleeve, you know?
It was a powerful moment.
It was good. And Daniel Green is wrong. I'm coming for your subs.
Wow.
It's a new hashtag. Hashtag Daniel Green is wrong.
Yeah, so that's the episode. It was very emotional. It's a lot slower, but one of the better episodes with a few exceptions. Thanks for joining us, David and Tanner. We want to get into spoiler stuff. If there's anything else you want to say before we kick you out,
get out of here,
because we want to keep talking. There were some funny comments I wanted to read when we talked about how Nynaeve's not tugging her braid enough. SG says no skirts were smoothed either, and Stu Floater says she did fold her arms on her breasts though.
It's true.
So,
it's very true.
Those both happen a lot in the books. Do you guys have anything to say? General comments or anything before we ruin the series for you?
I noticed the secret character and you did not. So
I noticed him the second time unprovoked. I didn't see it on Reddit or anything. I saw him myself when I was paying attention.
Yes, well, I too was watching it with my wife the first time.
Yes, but you weren't explaining the books.
That's true.
I think 4 and 5 have been my favorite episodes so far, because they took time to slow down, and I don't know. I mean, just as in book 1, I'm really excited for this series, both in a film adaptation and in the book itself. So, I guess I don't know do you guys should I hurry and finish the book before book 1 before next week? Should I pause between book 1 and 2 or just get right into it? Like, what do you guys think? What should I do?
I think you should finish it as soon as possible.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
I think the ending will be changed pretty significantly in the show from the book. But yeah, read the book, man.
Okay. How many episodes of the show are
8.
planned for season 1? 8. Okay. I will.
Yeah.
That's not a lot.
So stuff is about to
Not a lot.
happen.
Yeah, stuff's about to happen.
Okay, I'll try and finish.
Apparently,
that
there's a
up
promo for next episode and it looks like a banger. Says
Tell her about Lan's butt. Someone said that, and I'm like, 100%.
But obviously, the highlight of the series has been.
That's how I got my wife to watch.
Wait, really?
Stu Floater in the chat said that's how I got my wife to watch. I'll just say, I mean, I didn't know if it was my place to bring it up. I've been popping in and out of the chat during this whole thing, and you guys made a lot of good points. Like when I talked about how I don't like how they're 20, someone said like, well, would you watch it if they were 15 though? And I wouldn't. So that's a good point. I think they're doing a good job at adapting this for a wider audience and making it a bit more accessible. So
yeah, someone mentioned about you specifically, Tanner, that you haven't even finished the first book and are new to the series, and you already have very strong opinions that only seasoned book readers have.
Very much.
Yep, you're already pissed off about the changes.
good. Wouldn't be a good book reader if I didn't complain about film adaptations and how bad they are. But that's all I got. It's been a blast talking to you guys about
thanks for
this.
joining us.
Can I come back next week?
Yeah, you can
All right, cool.
if you watch the episode.
I will.
David, you got any last words?
No. It's fun.
So ominous, though.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Next time, give me more than an hour and a half notice.
Oh, add him to the group texting.
I've been busy. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. And you guys can leave, and we're gonna ruin everything, baby. Spoiler level high.
Have fun.
So many spoilers.
Full series spoilers. You've been warned. In 3, you better leave. I'm not gonna boot you from the stream.
All right. Bye.
Bye. So spoilers.
This is exciting.
I actually didn't have any spoilers.
Yeah, I don't have anything to talk about.
I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
See you guys next week.
Just kidding. Bye.
No, I liked how Valda said, he didn't explicitly say it in the torture scene. He says, "What makes you think that I care about my oaths?"
Yeah.
And I really like that. I like how you're seeing, like different opinions in the White Tower, but also within other sects in the world. Like most of the White Cloaks think that they're are there to do the right thing in their eyes, but you can tell that Valda is the type who joined the White Cloaks as an excuse, as an outlet to be himself. And I really like that.
It's like the power portion of it. And
yeah.
It's very Spanish Inquisition of him.
Inquisition, yeah.
But yeah, that's great. That's a great call out, because isn't he how high spoilers are we getting? Super high?
Full series.
Because isn't he the Dark Friend? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if he's specifically a Dark Friend. I don't remember, but he is the one who kills Patron Nile.
I feel like he is then. Yeah. If he's the one.
I can't remember. Tell us.
There's so many names, right? It's difficult.
He's definitely a bad guy. I don't know if he's specifically working for the Dark One. I think he's just a sadistic creep.
Yeah, I feel like he is, and I want to research that now. But I think he might be.
He is self-serving, which is the MO for the Dark Friends. That's how anyone who has that selfish mentality is prime example for being recruited to the Dark One. That those are the people they go after, and they showed that really well in episode 3 with Mara. What was her name? Dana. Dana. How she had lines of dialogue before it was revealed that she was a Dark Friend, that she wants to get out of this town and stuff. And the line where she said the choices that I've made have kept me here, and it's implied that she kind of joined the dark side so that she could get out of town, and then only to find out that her instructions were, you have to stay here to kill Rand. And so I like how diverse opinionate how many different opinions we're seeing.
Right. It's not just one dogma for an entire cast, right? So all the White Cloaks. The other spoiler though was
so much foreshadowing in episode 5.
Yeah, but Logain really with his maniacal laughter.
Oh yeah.
So what do we think that's about? Because obviously, spoiler, it's pretty clear that Matt is like corrupted by that knife and he's not
Yeah.
the one channeling. So is he seeing the corruption or is he seeing Rand at this point?
I
And
liked that
laughing because of
so,
that.
They did that scene poorly.
Yeah.
It started off real good when he starts laughing, and I was like, oh, yes. And then it shows the two boys, and you're like, this is perfect. It's showing both of them. You don't know which one he's looking at. And then it zooms in on Matt, and then cuts to Rand, who's not even looking at Logain. He's looking at Matt. And I'm like, you had the perfect opportunity to be vague. Like, the show is trying to be vague and not tell us who the Dragon Reborn is. And why would you do that?
I mean, it's basically what they're doing is they're specifically not looking at who it is, right? So they're like, who could it be? Is it all of these people?
The chat
And
is
leaving
saying
one
that-
person out, like very specifically. And it isn't, I mean, I understand why they're doing it. And in that scene, I get the ambiguity, right? They're really pushing
Yeah.
that Matt's channeling. They're not even being subtle about it, right?
No,
they're talking
they're
about
trying
it with
to
Tom
trick you into thinking
and
he's
all of
channeling.
these things.
But with that being said, they did have the one shot with very clearly the same special effect as the Mashadar. Yes, the Mashadar on his lip.
Mashadar.
So like,
But
if
it does
you're paying
also,
attention,
to
you
their
know
credit,
it's not,
it does look like the taint. Like it could be.
It looks similar to
the
the taint,
taint
but if you pay attention, it's very clear. There's a difference.
is,
Like the taint is that has a look, and the Mashadar was the kind of like stuck to the texture kind of thing.
Yeah.
The chat is saying that Logain wasn't laughing at all, for real, and Matt was having a bad trip. It's all in his head. I don't know. I don't think you're right.
I could see that.
I don't know. That's
But like, why wasn't Rand looking at Logain? I get he's concerned for his friend, but like that's like one of the coolest parts of the book when he like sees into his soul and like, oh crap.
Well, doesn't that happen though in the book though, where he's like even up at the tower, he's that high up in Camelin, which is another change here.
And they lock
they're
eyes.
They're in Camelin instead of Andor. I mean, not. They're in Camelin instead of Tarvalon or Tarvalon.
The third time it cuts to Logain, he's sitting back. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the last time it shows Logain passing it by, like he's not laughing anymore, right? So he's just sitting there. So it definitely
could be in Matt's head. But then why ruin the moment like that?
Yeah.
You need to have the lock eyes. It should have been him laughing and right next to the two boys. And since Matt is in front of Rand, it looks like he's looking at Matt, but we all know he's looking at Rand.
Yeah.
And it should have showed both boys transfixed.
Yeah. Because that's literally how I read it at first. I was like, "Oh, Logain's not laughing at Matt. Obviously, he's laughing at Rand."
I hated it. It started off so good when he started laughing. I was like, "Yes, yes, yes. No, what? No."
But then we also see Pat and Fane or Peyton Fane.
Pot and Fane.
In the background, which is
that was
like crazy. Because I wondered when they'd be bringing him back in. You don't really see him in that first episode.
No.
It's like one scene, basically.
You see him in the first episode, and then you're supposed to see him in the town before Shadow Logoth, but they skipped that entirely. And so you see him here, which is good. I mean,
part of me is like wanting to go back and see if he's been in the background of other scenes that I just haven't noticed.
I don't think
that would be crazy, as if he's just like in these other towns. King Killer, 100%. So many theories, we could go into that. Ridiculous.
Don't get us started on that.
I'm upset. You've ruined everything.
That's David. He's in the chat still watching for some reason.
I was like...
no, that's an inside joke. So that's the question that I want to ask Brandon Sanderson. I did a live signing. I went to go get some books signed at one of the signings he did, and I was going to ask him that question, but then something happened right before it was my turn, and he was like talking to someone else, and so I didn't want to be the guy to hold up the line. But
like excuse me, it's my turn.
Everyone asks about the books and like, hey, can you tell me this about the next book? And so I've always wanted to ask Brandon Sanderson, because he does a lot of signings here in Utah. Instead of talking about his books, I'm like, so you have any King Killer Book 3 theories. I just think that would be hilarious.
Have we talked about that explicitly since you've read them? Because I feel like I could write.
Let's do another one.
Wrong
Of these.
channel. Wrong
Not-
channel.
Not in this, obviously.
After December, let's do one of these on the King Killer.
but-
Oh shoot! I gotta listen to him again then. Okay.
Perrin, again, like his connection to wolves, and I'm like so upset how they're doing this. I've been mad about it in every episode.
Wouldn't it have been so much better if a wolf crashes through the tent and then he's like, and then just stands next to Perrin growling? That would have been that would have been what they were trying to go for in that episode.
Well, or just having Matt just being more, vicious, right? Like attack Valdar or whatever, right?
Valda.
So like Valda, yeah. So like because
you mean Perrin, you said Matt, but go on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad.
I think she should have shoved him or something, but it's Egwene that stabs him in the.
I feel like to some degree they're still trying to keep things ambiguous, right? Like what is happening with Perrin and Egwene? Like they could be the dragon.
He was supposed to kill a White Cloak here, right? Or does that happen?
Yeah, but then Egwene does it, or she stabs him. I don't think he actually dies. Right?
Well, no, Perrin in the books.
Yeah, 100%.
Kills more than one White Cloak, right?
Yeah,
and so they're hunting him the rest of the series
because they kill or attack the wolves.
Yes, the chat seems to be agreeing with me.
That
showing
so
the wolf
just
stand in front.
Very
of
upset about
so
it.
Much more effective.
And the contact lenses, like stop using contact lenses in like $1 million budgeted TV and movies. Stop it. I don't know who I need to write an angry letter about this to, but stop it.
Contacts. It's and that thing that's like the easiest effect to do with CGI.
Right. It's so
you just boot up After Effects and change colors right here.
And you can make it so subtle too, and instead of just like stupid looking. And
that's basically the lightsaber effect, which is the easiest thing to do. You just
Yeah. Very
I'm excited to see where they take that story though. I like how they tell it. I think that I think what you mentioned about how they're kind of trying to keep it ambiguous for now.
It's almost like a mystery, right?
Yeah.
But even in the books, I feel like when you read it, it's not really a mystery.
It's not. It's not hard to. The book is from Rand's perspective.
Lightning, and the lightning happening where he escapes and then he's sick for the next few days, and like all these things are just like
There is a really great Reddit thread that I just saw today that I want to mention because it talks about this. It's titled "We're Kind of Running Out of Time for Rand Here in the Show" by Akaio. I don't know how to say your friggin' name. And it's essentially it's a weird.
Maybe try a little.
Akaio. I don't know. I've watched the.
I want to say so many things. Alan. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm just going to say it weird. This person
says, I've watched through episode 5 and I'm distressed by the lack of development by our boy Rand here. Some important events are being omitted or given to other people. It's Nynaeve who's glowing like the sun and impressing Logain. When Logain sees the dragon and laughs, he's apparently staring at Matt. Rand's channeling sickness and antics and teasing the White Cloaks, which I really missed that part in the books. Climbing the mast are just not there. Tam's fever dreams are missing, like we don't get the scene of him with the rant with his dad saying you're not my son, and which I liked how Loyal talks about how he's an Aiel, and that would have been more effective if we got to see the conversation with him and his dad. There's no flutes, there's no sword training, and there's no meeting princesses or having Fades trying to kidnap him. And I totally agree. Rand has just had absolutely nothing to do in the show. I get we want to build the mystery, but like there's 3 episodes left and we're not even invested in the main character who's going to be the big reveal. And then someone commented, to maintain the mystery of who the Dragon Reborn is, they decided it would be best to not develop the Dragon Reborn.
Seriously, that's what it feels like to me, though. They just have not shown him at all because they don't want it to be too obvious, because it's so obvious.
Yeah, but
what are you doing?
Inadvertently, because they are trying to make it not obvious, it's obvious who it is.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one they haven't hinted at that it could be. The only scene we got was him breaking down a strong door.
It's true. It's true.
Which
Yeah,
was
oh.
probably him channeling, but the other things have been like so overt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Perrin's got Wolvie friends, and
I totally agree. It's
and
like
Matt's
so
got a dagger and stuff on his mouth.
right.
and
He's got like real bad herpes,
They
guys.
literally have conversations with about, hey, I think Matt is the channeler.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of non-book readers, and like, I'm like, so who do you think the Dragon Reborn is? And every single one, it's Rand, right? Like, I'm like,
Yeah. What a-
Wow.
I've seen some
Uh,
interesting comments online that are like
Yeah.
they're not seeing it, but everyone I've talked to personally, same thing. It's like it's obvious who it is. It's obviously what's happening with Matt. It's
and a-
it's obvious what's happening with Perrin. So
There's a comment that says exactly what I'm saying. Rand is not getting anything, and it's almost giving it away because he's the only one with nothing going on.
that's what I was saying earlier. It's like when you don't look at a hiding space, right, or like a
Uh-huh.
person. It's like
Mhm.
it's so obvious from your omission where it is.
And so it's not going to be as satisfying because we don't care about Rand yet.
I mean, I do care about Rand. I'm not going to lie and say they haven't.
I care about him because I
Tried to
know
do
him
that.
from the books, but I think if I was honestly watching, he's the least interesting character right now.
Yeah.
And,
Also-
and I love how much they've developed Perrin and Matt.
And
We've
Matt.
gotten so much more of them because they are non-existent in the books, and so I love that. But it's at the sacrifice of Rand's character completely.
I just randomly too. The only thing interesting that's happened to Rand is that he got a new cloak randomly in the first like 10 minutes of this episode. I was like, where did this come from?
Oh,
Where's
I
your
didn't
other
even notice
thing?
that? So,
He just has
so
like this
instead of
green
having
cloak.
that fur one.
Yeah, I think he's wearing it underneath still, but I was literally like, where did this come from? Did you steal that? Like, what's
Well,
happening?
it's been a month. It's been a month, right?
True.
Some interesting things I wanted to mention. Sorry, Egwene takes the Aes Sedai rings when they leave, and the second I saw that, I started thinking about the rest of the books. I don't think she's giving those rings back to the Aes Sedai,
Oh, interesting.
or maybe she
actually.
gives some of them back and keeps a few for herself.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting.
Right?
Because that was one of my
and
critiques.
it has to go that way because the rings are so
They're
ostentatious
so
now,
specific.
and
Yeah.
the accepted rings will not look the same.
Well, and if you think about it too,
And
they were
I'm
all
right.
a lot of them were reds, and I think there's like a green in there, right? And that's who
Yeah.
she pretends to be, is a green.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
they're already jumping into books 2 and 3. I'm pretty sure they're going to get directions from the Amyrlin sooner than they do in the books.
Well, yeah, because they talked about her coming back. So
I'm just really I saw that and immediately
That is
that's
smart.
what I would change.
I wondered about it. Yeah.
That would speed things up, and it would make her a little bit more proactive in, because it's kind of just give hey, here's your plot for the next books.
Yeah. That's solid.
And my wife asked in the last scene of this episode, with everyone in white, she said, "Can women be warders?" Because there was a girl, and I was like, I cannot answer that question.
I wouldn't
I
be
was
surprised.
I think it's mostly just men.
But based on what they've done with other parts of this, I wouldn't be surprised if they had some female warders,
Yeah.
honestly. Just right off the bat. So it's an interesting take. We'll see how that goes.
that is interesting. Well, especially since again, with this whole Dragon Reborn, we know that it's a male, right? So it's kind of been like, so yeah, that will definitely be very interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Was there anything from this episode specifically you guys want to spoiler talk about?
Honestly, the
what
first
did
thing.
you know about Loyal or something like
The
that?
foreshadowing with Moraine and Alana talking about the bond.
Oh.
Yeah, because Alana's the one who bonds Rand
No.
forcefully, isn't that?
She bonds Rand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought you were going to say she's the one who takes land.
Lamb? No. No, that's not her.
No,
Though
that
I could
is
see them actually like doing
changing
that.
who it is.
Yeah, because the other one in the
I
books
thought they
is
were
when
gonna.
you actually know.
I thought it was going to happen right there, and like I thought I'm like, oh, are they going to do this? What I thought was going to happen is they were going to cut the conversation off,
Okay,
and then
but
5 seasons later, it would be flashback to this moment. Hey, can you take Lan's Bond?
they are really alluding to her like dying soon though.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I wonder how quickly that's going to happen as opposed to like book 6 or 7 or 5. I don't even know in the books. It's got to be 5 or 6. Yeah.
I noticed that too. I thought that was very.
It's at the end of when they take Tyr. They've not Tyr, sorry.
Yes.
Shoot, what's that one?
Camelin.
The Golden Bees. No.
Camelin.
Is it Camelin?
Yes, it's after because it goes. There's a big fight with Lanfear. Moraine and Lanfear go through the hoop, and then Rand travels to Camelin and takes over Camelin, and that's when Elaine thinks he killed her mom.
I want to research that because I'm having like really clear remembering of it being.
There's a lot of cities. It might have been.
So
it might have been a different city.
In my head, it's Kyrian.
Kyrian?
Yeah. But now I want to check it. So
because it's also the one where with the balefire and the wolves that kill Matt.
Yeah.
And then he brings him back with balefire killing.
I don't think it is. That's a different book. That comes sooner. Yeah. That comes much sooner. And then they go to, I'm pretty sure that comes sooner. And then they go to the Waste and they're bringing all of the stuff back from Ruinduin. I can't talk right now, but you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, and it's down by the docks. Thank you, Stu. And it's after all of that in the Waste. So I'm pretty sure it's after Camelin.
Correct, and you are false. It's Fires of Heaven is Fires of Heaven is book 5, and after because they are in Kyrian when Lanfear attacks.
Yes,
and then he uses that opportunity to quickly travel to Andor,
to Camelin, and that's the end of that book.
Yep.
That seems so wrong to me. I feel like I want to push against you. But what I was saying was that it happens in
battles with Raven. He battles with Raven in Andor in Camelin.
Well, there we go. We're both right then, because I said it happened in Kyrian.
Yeah,
which is what you said.
Lanfear happens in Kyrian, and then he goes to Camelin.
So we were both right.
So I was right.
No, because I said it happened. She dies in Kyrian.
Oh, you were
listen. We're talking about the same thing. We're saying the same thing here.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So I wanted to quote Princess Bride to be like,
but
never bet against a Sicilian.
Okay. What were we talking? We're talking about Moraine dying. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of hints about her death.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much foreshadowing. Saying Egwene is unbreakable. With Nynaeve talks about her as a kid. Really good foreshadowing.
Yeah. Well, can I just say that I think it's cool because, there's like, guys, I can't wait to see her as Amerlin. To be honest, like
I can't. I can wait for that. I can't wait to see her get just brutally tortured endlessly.
Yeah,
like that's what I'm excited. I'm excited.
That does happen
because
a lot.
It's like
honestly.
so like it's so intense that like when it's finally over, like it's just this beautiful moment in the books. Like, but. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's what makes this so exciting. Watching these series is because like every time I watch, I'm like, oh, they just set it up for this. They just set it up for the Amerlin. Oh, they just set it up for the Tort. Oh, they just set up.
There's a lot of care into stuff that's going to happen seasons and seasons down the line.
Yeah.
and it's cool. And I need to go and figure out what that weird painting in Moraine's room is. I think that's where she keeps her Angreal.
Which we see in the first episode.
Could be.
Yes,
We see the seated man. Man.
but she's not supposed to have it.
Right.
I think that's where she hides it. But it was a weird shot to end on. I'm not 100% sure what they were trying to allude to.
I didn't either, and I've seen some theories online, and I just am not sure how I feel about them. But
yeah.
Did you watch the bonus content? Because I thought that was really well done.
I've watched all of the animated shorts. I haven't watched all the behind the scenes yet.
I haven't been watching behind the scenes because if it didn't happen in a scene, and I didn't notice it, then what's the point? What's the point?
So here's the thing. I actually was watching those, and they say a lot of stuff that we've already talked about. Like for example, why they focused on this whole relationship with this episode, particularly, focusing on the Warder Aes Sedai relationship and things like that. So that's really what they've been talking about, and I think they've been really good. But
so I'll watch it after all of them are done then. Because otherwise I'm like, I didn't see it in the episode. Even if it was there and you didn't show it, doesn't matter. You didn't show it. Okay?
Whatever, Nate, you just gotta think of it as the extended version of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll watch that after I've watched the whole season.
The segments where they talk about Robert Jordan, Brandon Sanderson, and Rafe Judkins are really good.
Yeah, those are cool.
But yeah, bonus content. I really have enjoyed the last two, actually. The White Tower and the one where they talk about the One Power. Part of me wishes that this whole, they had just done the whole TV series this way, honestly. That's probably, in this specific style.
I would watch an animated Wheel of Time, 100%.
Yeah, and the way that they've done it is so interesting and unique, and I feel like more so than any other part of the series, they've captured the tone and the world and the uniqueness of the culture and the places in these little shorts. And so then sometimes I'm disappointed almost when I'm seeing the actual episodes because the bonus content is so much better sometimes. And yeah, it's slow moving and it's kind of weird and it's, whatever. 100%, Tim, it won't work for a mass market, right? Especially because they're kind of weird and odd. But it's so well done.
Beautiful.
Well done.
So beautifully well done. Almost like they're oil paintings in this animation. And yeah, Stu, we're just on the same wavelength. I can't even handle it right now.
It looks like, expressionist.
Yeah.
painting.
So, anyways, I lost my train of thought, but there you go. Any other spoilers?
I wanted to talk about Perrin's wife's death. Full spoilers.
Yeah.
Because when they first introduced the wife character, I was upset for a minute until it clicked in my brain.
Why
she's going to die, and I thought it would happen later. I thought they were going to kill her off with the rest of Perrin's family, and that would have been a good moment. And then they kill her off in episode 1, and I'm like, okay, that happened a lot sooner than I thought. And I think it's a good way of giving his character depth and showing why he would hate the axe. And then the conversation with the Tinkers about, well, have you picked up an axe? Did it make your life better or worse? And I killed my wife with it. But yeah, that's some of my favorite imagery from the books is when Wolf guy
Elias.
When Elias tells him, he's because he has an axe with him, he's and he's gonna throw it away, and Elias says, no, keep the axe, keep
Until
using
you
it,
don't want to throw it away
until you love using it, and then throw it away. And I love that he's constantly having to choose between creation and destruction, the hammer and the axe. And then he uses the hammer for destruction too. He just uses it as an axe. But
also some cool
do we still
parallels there when he makes the hammer with the one power, and it's almost like Thor's hammer vibes going on.
Yeah.
But that's another point. I still feel very strongly.
I thought we were going to see
should've...
Elias in this episode. I thought he was going to show up.
I don't know if we're going to see Elias. I'm sorry. And it would be sad. But I feel like there's a lot more opportunity once you understand what's going on with parents. So probably season 2, season 3, to then bring in Elias to kind of understand and like have that mentorship and whatever. So maybe look forward to that.
Yeah,
But
we all want Elias, and it's a 50-50 shot at this point.
I
if they're gonna
still
show
feel
him or
so
not.
strongly though that they shouldn't have showed him killing his wife on that first episode, and then keep having like flashbacks and like PTSD of the battle.
And he
And
saying,
just allude to it.
because it would make sense that he was sad because his wife died, and then
Yeah.
we find out in this episode,
And he's traumatized.
it's
And then
his
finally this
fault.
episode, it would have had so much more impact and so much more depth. And I would have been way more interested in his character if I didn't already know what was going on with him.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Just from a story writing point
it's
of
good.
view.
It would have been good. But I liked that he was.
I will die on this hill. Not just kidding.
I think you're right. But I also liked how he was just saying, I deserve to die. Like, you can get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, just let him kill me.
I know. It was heartbreaking.
It was what we've been needing from his character.
Can we talk about Egwene though too? How she's sitting like this on the thing, like
Oh,
so
yeah.
awkwardly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
I mean, it's a direction, right? Like if she sits like this, it's kind of weird. She's not going to be doing things. She's like
Mhm.
flopping her hands.
Then she can't move her fingers to do the channeling.
But it's just awkward. It was just
It was
kinda
a little awkward, yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't pull me out too much. But yeah, Valda got real scared real fast, and it didn't make a whole
Yeah,
lot of
what
sense.
was-
It seems like he would have bounced, but should have been a wolf.
or have scarier eyes instead of contact lenses. Like
Yeah, have them glow.
even if they had just
have them
showed that,
burn. Like
even if they had just showed that as a better effect, like I said, and they were more animalistic and like the glowing in the center, right? The reflection of the lens would have been so much better.
and that would have looked more like, hey, is he the Dragon Reborn? He's got the Shamael eyes.
Right. And I mean, we don't need to talk about Shamael again because I'm still so disappointed with that character development right now. So
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see.
honestly, that little statue of him, best he's looked so far. Best he's looked.
Okay. So let's get into the big change in the series that the Dragon Reborn could be a woman.
Yeah, you were saying last time that there were a lot of things you felt that it kind of ruins.
So
and I'm interested in your perspective.
I understand both sides of the camp. Like, I get that in doing so, it's better for Egwene and Nynaeve's characters. It makes sense that they're going to be coming on the journey, and it makes us more interested in them. Like, oh, could they be the saviors of the world, right? Because in the books, there's no reason why Egwene should come. She just shows up. I want to go on an adventure too.
I'm coming.
And her character's dumb, right? And Nynaeve makes sense because she's hunting them down. But yeah, there's no reason for Egwene to do. And the only reason that Moraine lets her come, she doesn't protest, is because she knows she can channel and she'll be an instrument. She'll be useful to the White Tower, right? With the change, it makes Moraine's character look smarter, right? It's not just happenstance that she gets the girl too.
Mm-hmm.
She brings her along, but it's also like she wasn't lying. Like they like from what they've done in the show, it's very clear that in the show world, the Dragon Reborn could be a female.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand your point too, that it's interesting with how the world is right now with gender and stuff, but I also think it takes away a lot from the story.
I mean, in what ways though? Can you be specific?
Yes. Well, I'm going to get on a soapbox for just a little bit. Before I talk about how it affects the story, I want to talk about Hollywood in general and like wokeism in Hollywood.
Okay.
Because it's when it's done in Hollywood, it almost always, I'm talking in generalities, it almost always is done poorly and feels like it's pandering.
Yeah.
When it's done well, it really sticks out.
Agree.
Okay. But like Hollywood in general is just so disconnected from reality
It's lip service is what it is.
that
Right.
like they don't really care about these issues. They're doing it because it's popular and because it makes them money, right? Like Hollywood doesn't know how much a banana costs. Okay. Like, and you can just see with what's happening right now with the Me Too movement and all that stuff. Hollywood is basically what created that culture that where bad things happened. Like Harvey Weinstein, Hollywood created that. There's a reason why we all know the term casting couch.
Mm.
And obviously it's a bad thing, but now for like Hollywood to be like pretending they didn't know the whole time and saying, "Oh, this is bad," and it's literally like they're trying to shame us for something they did.
So you're saying here that they can't specifically try to tell these stories in a more woke or better way because they're like the biggest part of the problem to some extent.
This is all, this is general when they do it, it's pandering because they don't care about it.
Mhm.
Okay. And there has been a bunch of trends with especially with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with just like, instead of creating interesting female characters that are strong, they're taking away male characters and turning them into female. Like I mean, if you look at the MCU right now, they've replaced almost all of the characters with better female versions. There's going to be a female Iron Man, a female Thor, female.
I mean, that's not new though. That's
a female
like
Captain America. Yeah. Okay.
Been happening for decades. That is not new.
That's just my complaint about Hollywood in general. It doesn't mean it can't be done well in the show. And
okay, so then it's invalid and not a part of your argument then. So we're going to move on.
I just wanted to rant about Hollywood for
that was just your Hollywood rant. Okay, now tell me why you feel like it doesn't work.
Okay.
Or what it changes.
So, and it would also be silly, right, to say, regardless of your views of, because this move it's not so much about female empowerment as it is about being inclusive to trans community, right? That's basically because Louis Theron is a male and his male spirit would be born in a female body. Like that's what we would be kind of trying to address.
I mean, I feel like they're just trying to be inclusive in general, right?
Yeah.
So they're being more inclusive for gender. They're being more inclusive for sexuality. They're also, to some extent, being inclusive for like mental health. Right. So okay. I don't think they're saying, what they're saying is that the soul doesn't have a gender. Right?
Okay.
So it could be either. It's not like you're a man going into a female body at that point.
And it would be, and regardless of your views on how on that in real life, it would be ridiculous to say, oh, that can't happen in the series. It's a fantasy series, right? Magic can't happen either, right? So and it's not completely out of, it wouldn't be far out there in a world where reincarnation exists, and the people who believe in reincarnation in real life, that you can be reincarnated into a frog's body. It's not far out to say that a male spirit could be put into a female body, right? So that's out there too, right? My complaints with saying that the Dragon Reborn could be a female are strictly story based. Like I think it affects a lot of things in the book unnecessarily.
Well, that's what I want to hear though. Is like what specifically?
I'll do it.
Because I feel like I don't see that actually happening.
They're obviously not going to change who it is.
Right. No. 100%. If they did, I would be upset. That would change things.
It's going to be Rand, who's the Dragon Reborn. Okay. But the implication that it could be a woman, I think, takes away a lot of the weight.
Specifically for them.
Because we know, right? Because I think if we're talking the books, there really isn't any instance of, a female being born, the only instance is with one of the Forsaken.
With like in the
Bothamel. Bothamel dies in the end of book 1, and then he's not reincarnated. It's not a natural turning the wheel. The Dark One takes his spirit and puts him into a female body, and he's called a Rongar. And that was a really cool part of the that was a really cool part of the book for me, because he was like a secret agent, you know. He was infiltrating the Aes Sedai's camps, and no one knew, because he wasn't channeling Saidar. He was channeling Saidin. He was a man, just looked like a woman. And so if that aspect can't exist in this world where a female spirit could be
I would say that it can,
and a man in a woman's.
Because again, you said it yourself, it's not a natural cycling of the wheel, right? He doesn't reincarnate them.
Yes, but
to it, but he just kind of takes their essence or whatever and puts it into into something that isn't natural for them. Yes. Right. So if anything, I feel like it gives you higher stakes in the book to some extent, because they're going to have those same memories.
If in the show,
right,
it can happen naturally, then the Bothamel instance, it wouldn't be a surprise.
Not happening in this instance. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think it takes anything away from the plot at all. I feel like you still have that, but where he's done it purposely unnaturally in a way that they wouldn't have done, where they wouldn't have had that. And that's what makes it cool. You still could do that.
But
I don't know if they will.
You theoretically, in this world, could still have males channeling Saidar and females channeling Saidin.
I feel like the question here is, what's channeling? Is it the body or is it the soul?
Okay, right? But if the Dragon Reborn is a female,
so that is going to be a little different with the stakes specifically for it being like that they'll go mad. I don't think that they've specifically set it up that way all the way.
Okay,
right?
so you're saying if the Dragon Reborn is actually a female, he's fully female, and he would be channeling Saidar, not Saidin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. So it's not necessarily it's not that the dragon.
Okay, but then that takes away the weight of the mantle of the dragon.
Well, it takes away the madness portion of it that he might go mad.
That's part of the mantle, though, isn't it?
I agree. I agree with you there. I 100% do.
They have all these prophecies about the dragon.
Right, but the prophecy specific in the way, real quick, in the way that they're talking about it here, is that it's going to be could it be another breaking? Could it be like that he'll create this same thing?
Maybe it could be them hoping that they're hoping that it's a girl so that he doesn't break the world,
or that even if it is a woman, that awful things are still happening, right? Like maybe she breaks the world in a different way, or she taints so I don't think that it's necessarily, but I agree with you though.
I love that in the books, that it has to be a man, and so everyone's terrified about it.
Yeah, and I agree that that's lost, for sure.
And it's totally lost here.
Just with the taint portion,
the dragon will be reborn.
And he'll go.
You
mad.
also know he is the only hope for surviving. And even then, you probably won't survive because he's going to go crazy and kill everyone. And that is terrifying. And and that whole aspect of the book with Rand's character, which won't change if we find out that he is the Dragon Reborn. You can still keep that, but I love just the dread. That the whole world experiences, and that's why the Reds are so wrong in their ideology of just killing all of the males, right? Because we got to prevent the breaking, but it's like, but you can't prevent the prophecy, right? Like, and if they accidentally still the Dragon Reborn, even though he's crazy, like we're gonna have to learn how to deal with that, and that's why like it lessens Moraine's stakes in the show too, because she's on this secret mission to find the Dragon Reborn, because she knows that he's been born, and she knows that he has to be a man, and no one's gonna like that.
Can I just add something real quick?
Yeah.
I think you bringing up the Red Aja actually is kind of another important thing, right? Because the Red Aja are only hunting down men. So I guess my question is, if it could be a man or a woman, then one, why aren't the Red Aja also hunting down women?
Well,
Because
to
I
your
think
point,
the way the show is set it up,
yeah,
if it
it's
had
both.
been a woman, she would be channeling Saidar. She would just be the female version of the.
I don't think that's what
champion.
they're saying. I don't think so at all. But what they have alluded to is that the Reds, when they introduce them, it's not that they're just hunting men. It's they're hunting all. They like are the police basically of Aja.
Yeah.
They're policing anyone.
Yeah, it also
who's doing
it mentions in the show that they are also in charge of, and I think it was in the animated short.
Right.
They're also making sure that
power misuse.
women are not misusing it. So they're going like if there's a wilder that's kind of out of control, they're the ones that take care of that as well.
To your point, Alan,
That's true.
I agree with some of those stakes are not as high. 100%.
I understand why they've done it.
Yeah.
But I think we lose more than we gain.
Well, I still disagree though to an extent because I know that they're not going to change that. They're not going to change. If they did change who that was, 100%.
Yeah.
The story wouldn't work. It would.
Yes.
You'd lose so much of it. But even knowing, like for me, I'm like, but it's not. It's going to be Rand, and he's going to be.
And that's why it's not a deal breaker for me. It doesn't ruin the show, but it does feel pandery and unnecessary.
I don't feel like it feels pandery to me as much either, because when I reread them the last time and I read those moments where they talk about them putting like the soul into another body, and I thought that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to deal with this with like a modern lens? Because that's a big thing, and that could be a big deal for a lot of people, right? So I do actually wonder if they'll do that in the show, or they'll have like
I don't see
else
how they
that
could
happens.
address it in the show. I don't know.
That's where I feel like it's interesting if it were intentional, right? You intentionally do that as a dark one, and that's the punishment. And really,
Well,
that's why
in the books. That's what it was.
It's a punishment.
He
Exactly.
was punishing Bathmel. He's like, you suck. I'm going to put you in a
Exactly.
woman's body.
So you
'cause
put
women are
this
inferior.
same soul, before it's like cleansed and it's like returned out on the wheel. You put that same soul into a woman, and then I see
the Dark One wouldn't be in charge of putting of rebirthing the Dragon Reborn.
No,
it would be the pattern.
Exactly. That's why it's unnatural when he does it to these people. He doesn't let them do that cycle. He takes them before that, snatches them, and put them in another thing.
All I know is that also in the books, like there really is. I would say that there's evidence to the contrary that never happens naturally. Because you get the Heroes of the Horn, you get Brigitte and her husband. They're always reborn, and
that is a good point.
Hook up. They always marry. So the only instance of that ever happening is when it's unnatural from the Dark One doing it.
I feel like they do play that in the thing, and that's where it's interesting to me, because even when I read the books, I wondered, like, has there ever been a female dragon? Right? Because. And maybe in some future
in the books.
Well, think about it this way too, right? Real quick, because the reason that we know the taint can be like healed is because it's clean at one point, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do we know that in some future the female portion isn't tainted?
Yeah.
And then return, right? True. So that's where I keep going back. Where I'm like, maybe in this age, in this specific scenario, like it would be weird. It wouldn't work in this story for that to work. But I don't think it precludes or excludes or makes the story any worse. So if you're a diehard fan, and I agree. When I first heard it, I was like,
breaker for me either.
I was like, what? But
I just like
those
I can still appreciate the show. It's not like, oh, I'm never gonna watch it because they're being woke and it's garbage. I understand the changes, but I personally don't like it. But it's not like But to answer your question about has there ever been a female dragon? If we're talking just books,
hasn't.
No. It's always Luz Theron's spirit being born into a new man. There is the question of the Amarisu, which is the female counterpart to the dragon. Doesn't come up in the books at all. This is all companion stuff. The Amarisu is a female champion of the light, and she is used in time. But she is one of the Heroes of the Horn as well. and reincarnated, and she is a constant hero of the light in times where the dragon is not on the earth. But
Where did you find that? That's very interesting because I've never heard that before.
Google, yes. So I'll put it in the chat.
Because I feel like I've researched that before as well, where people have asked even Brandon Sanderson or Robert Jordan, like if
it's I don't even think it's in the companion book. It's in the wiki.
It's definitely not in the companion.
It's in the wiki, sure. And it's based off a conversation that Robert Jordan had with a fan.
See, because that's interesting. I find that very interesting.
And so there are female champions of the light.
But to me,
it's always been the Dragon Reborn who faces off against the Dark One.
I mean, to me, honestly, Alan, that just proves my point that it's like, okay, so cool. When it's that person, it's the same soul. They just call it something different, and she's the champion.
But it's not the same soul. It's not Luz Theron as a woman. It's a completely different person.
Like I said, I've never heard that. And I'm happy. No, I'm not saying I've never heard that. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but to me, again, like especially if we're adapting it to the TV show, I feel like that just shows more precedent that there could be like a hero of the light who's a woman, and you wouldn't call her the dragon; it would be something else. But again,
but in the show they are specifically calling her the dragon. It could be a woman, but I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, I'm a misogynist.
I understand you. For me specifically, it's very nice to see that intersectionality and the representation, because there wasn't any real queer representation in the books. There was a lot of issues.
There's
alluded, very specifically alluded.
There's
but
pillow friends.
There's lots of pillow. They mentioned a few times vaguely.
Not very subtle either. It's very clear that a lot of the Aes Sedai are lesbians.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And
they allude to that fact, but that doesn't mean that there's like representation, right?
Sure.
And so, especially for a modern audience, it is important that that's there. And I've actually very much appreciated the parts that they've included in each of these episodes. And it doesn't feel like pandering in that respect.
I like
that is a little bit of a different subject, right?
And the scene with the warders did not feel pandering to me, because you know that's in the books. It's just never explicitly stated, and I like that they're being more explicit about it. Like, they're banging, guys.
Yeah,
like the Aes Sedai, the specifically the green ones, they have lots of orders because they like men, and if I don't know if they're going to keep this aspect in the books with Rand and his 3 wives.
Yeah, that's another thing I wondered about.
It will feel less out of place. I hope they still do.
I mean, they just call him poly and whatever. He's polyamorous. That's a thing nowadays as well. That's very
I think
would be good to showcase. Honestly, I wouldn't think. I think
if they do it, there will also. I mean, there has to be. There's going to be a romantic element between Elaine and Avienda. In addition to, like, they're gonna.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think Min is just gonna be in it for Rand.
Yeah,
but I would love to see. I really hope they don't.
100%.
I really hope they don't throw out the love dodecahedron. What is it? It's not a thruple. There's 4.
It's a quad. It's a quad. Quadruple. There we go. There's a real name for it. I'm not that hip. I don't know these things. Oh, is it really? Quadruple.
Quadruple? That's made up. That's not a real thing.
He's like,
I don't think you could find 4 people alive.
I can't even find one. So yeah,
that would be. I could see 3, but 4 is too much. I don't think you could find 4 people that get along that well.
And then if you have 5, it's just a cult, right? Like that's.
Wow.
Well, I'm gonna get burned for that one. That was a joke. I apologize. Anyways, I do, like I said, I see all your points, and I'm interested in how they're going to do it, because I feel like every time we have these conversations, ultimately within like the next few episodes, we're like, oh, well, look at that. Interesting.
I've been pleasantly surprised. Like,
they've been very
there have been a ton of things where we've been like, hey, I wonder how they're going to do, and then not the very next episode. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're explaining it.
I have
being
faith
addressed
here. Yeah, I have faith.
I do know there's a quote from Rafe Judkins because someone asked him if they're going to keep, because I think the complaint is that it's the with Rand getting 3 women is what's it called? It's just like the teenage fantasy, right? So someone asked him about that, and his response was, "I'm more interested in polyamory than I am in polygamy." So
Yeah.
I think if they do it, we're definitely going to see Elaine and Avienda as well as Rand.
Well, that's really how it's shown in the books, though, right? It
Yeah,
literally is him, like
it
that
really-
he can't. He loves them all equally.
Yeah,
in different ways.
And the books definitely hint at stuff between Elaine and Nynaeve, and not Nynaeve and Avienda. Like they get really, really close, but it's more like platonic.
Yeah, I mean Avienda with the like, Maidens of the Spear, though. There's a lot of that stuff there too.
Oh yeah, there's lots of
would
maidens.
not be surprised at all.
Stu says I can barely get one woman to put up with me. So yeah, that's the problem you get when.
Anyways, very interesting. I really am interested in how they're going to do it. I really am. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and this is only the first season, so hopefully, as the coming seasons keep coming, then we'll be happier with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think my last thought, just to tail end that thought of the dragon reborn being a female, is that like the books are already pretty inclusive in between like male and female. Like you get so many strong female characters. It just felt a little unnecessary that the dragon reborn could also be a female to me. Like they're like the female characters are cool enough without that added possibility, you know?
Well, here's a question though, because every woman that I've ever talked to that's tried to read these stories has just been like, he doesn't know how to write women. He writes women that are men. He just writes men that are women.
And that's
so
not necessarily the point that I'm making. Like I get, obviously a man isn't going to be as good at writing like the internal dialogue of the women, but the women still do pretty awesome things in the Wheel of Time.
I will concede that 100%.
Egwene's character arc is just
I would say Egwene and Nynaeve, honestly, and Avienda and Elaine also do some really good things, as well as men. Like, we're not short on strong female characters.
He's not the best at writing how a woman thinks, but their characters are still cool.
Yeah, I concede. That's what always bothers me. I'd listen to like Steven or our brothers talk about how they had such troubles with the chapters on the women's perspective, and I'd be like, some of the best stuff happens in those chapters. Like, there's a lot of stuff that is like kind of boring and politics and.
But like I would like to write a book one day. I have ideas, and the plots, but I'm not good at actually getting the writing down. But I know that if I write a female character, it's not going to be as good.
Yeah,
because I don't have that same perspective. Brandon Sanderson is really, really good at it. But he's even grown. Like his earlier books, he's not as good. But it's hard to know what it's like to be a woman, or for a woman to know what it's like to be a man. So I don't think that points as, but yeah.
Agreed. Again, I'm not saying that the women in this series aren't amazing, because they really are, like, spectacular. Some of my favorite characters. And I just started reading A Princess of Mars, which is like from 1910 or something, by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And man, can I tell you, things have gotten so much better in the writing of fantasy for women and everyone.
And that's another. If you compare The Wheel of Time to any other book from that same time period, like the women are they're props.
I mean, it is written because of its time period, right? Like 80s and 90s and early 2000s, where there wasn't as much awareness, or not even awareness, but
sensitivity.
No, it's I'm trying to find the right word. There wasn't as much openness about these things. You couldn't be open about that, right? Just in society. And a lot of times people, even writing those kind of books, had to code them because you couldn't get things published if they had sort of that sort of thing in them. So I'm not saying this isn't that Robert Jordan is in any way
not
like
his
a
fault.
bad writer or that it's his fault. I'm just saying, as a reader, that there is a marked absence of those type of characters. So it's nice to see that in here. And so I especially like some of the stuff they're doing with gender, because I find that interesting as well, and how it intersects with like our modern world.
Like other than the Dragon Reborn, what?
That's a specific one. Let me think.
Yeah, show your work. No, I want to know. I want to know because I'm trying to think too.
That's the biggest one I can think of now, so I might have to think about things more.
So to put you on the spot.
Yeah, but I've thought about that a lot, and like how it works and what it changes and like what those kind of changes are, and if so it's not like I don't have those same thoughts. I just feel like I also can see how it doesn't really change things, or whatever that case is.
Yeah,
and how ultimately it's like good for the fan base. It's good for the series as a whole. It does bring it into a more modern understanding of like the world, which isn't necessarily something fantasy needs to do, right? But when you're when you're adapting it to a screen, then it does. So
yeah.
Can I just add too that
No.
I have been impressed that with this aspect of the film, I mean of the TV show, that it hasn't been in your face, right? Like they haven't like blatant. Like, I mean, it's been compared a lot to a Game of Thrones, right? Like they want it to be the next Game of
It's
Thrones.
like the only baseline anyone can compare it to.
Yeah, right. But
because fantasy TV shows have not been great.
No,
and that was the first. That was the first one that went mainstream.
Yeah, and so
everyone's comparing it to Game of Thrones.
It's nice though that
different.
it's definitely not as in your face as what Game of Thrones was, right? And so
yeah,
it's definitely a subtle way of introducing these sorts of ideas, but also being discreet, I think, as well, right? So it's not like, hey, like, look, this is what's going on.
I mean, I don't know if that's to its credit. Because I feel like just when you say that, it like, I don't know.
I think he's talking about
what are you happy about?
I think he's saying I'm glad that there's not sex scenes on screen.
Yes,
and I agree. I'm not watching this for the butts, even though I like joke.
I don't think Jared is trying to say I'm glad I don't have to see any gays on screen.
No, it's just the whole sex in general sort of thing.
I agree. Right, like I'm not watching that for that. There are parts of it in the series, but
there are places you can go if you want to see that kind of stuff.
They're pretty accessible. So.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's my input.
Well, I think this has been a really good discussion. I think that's all like the big spoiler stuff I wanted to talk about. Do you guys have anything else?
Nope.
Does our dedicated 6 viewers, do you guys have any questions? We got 8 now. It was 6 a second ago.
They heard you.
This has been a good time, and we're gonna keep doing this. And apparently, we want to do another one after. We're obviously. Oh, okay, yeah. I see your comment, Tim. We're obviously not going to be able to talk about other things until after December, but I would love to do a show on King Killer Chronicles and just talk nerdy crap with you guys, because I love the company and I love you guys, and you're nerdy nerds.
Yeah, you're okay.
So yeah, I really like this comment from Tim Bake. What's the story arc of the last 3 episodes going to be? How much are we gonna get into books 2 and 3?
Yeah, I'm interested.
That is a good question. Is it
obviously
2 where they get sold as slaves or whatever, or captured? Or
yes.
Book, you're talking about
the Great Hunt.
You're talking about Elaine and Egwene, right? Is it them two who get?
It's Egwene.
It's Egwene for sure, and I think Elaine is
Elaine and Nynaeve.
Elaine and
but
Egwene.
Nynaeve and Elaine escape, and Egwene's the only one who gets captured.
Okay, so you're talking about the Shan Chan.
Yep,
we're not seeing that season 1. That's at the end of book. That's the third act of book 2.
Yeah, I was going to say I thought it was book 2, but it was definitely during
book
the
2.
end.
So book 1 ends with them getting to the Borderlands.
The Eye of the World, the Green
Faldara.
Man,
Faldara.
Shinar.
Faldar is the city in Shinar.
Yes.
They get to Faldar too. They've already shown Faldara in the trailers. It's that big desert city, the like dwarven, almost like square looking city that's right in front of Tarwin's Gap.
Do you think we'll see the Green Man?
Oh man, I don't know. The end. Okay, so the ending of book 1 is so weird, right? It is especially compared to the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Robert Jordan clearly hadn't figured out where he wanted the whole series to go, because there are like direct retcons starting like book 2. Like book 1 has Narg, the talking Trolloc, right? He speaks English. Never comes up again because it was a little silly. So book 1's finale is not as tight.
Yeah. Well,
especially with the Forsaken, because he duels with the Forsaken and kind of wins accidentally. It's kind of lame.
How about this? Let's make this another episode too, because I do have to go.
Yeah. We've been talking for a while.
Yeah. But there's a lot to say there, and I'm interested in predicting or seeing what we maybe want to see in those books.
Long answer short, I think we're going to see all of book 1, and we're going to see the first couple chapters of book 2 in so much setting up the hunt of the Horn for the next season. I think we're going to see the Horn, and it's going to get stolen, and then it's going to be like, oh crap, we got to go get it. I think the other elements from book 2 and 3 that have been said are going to be included in season 1 are just White Tower world building stuff.
Real quick though, for Steven, the fifth people they were talking about, I feel like they're talking about Nynaeve, weren't they?
I think he's talking. I think that is in regard to our the love dodecahedron. There's 4, so it's Rand and 3 girls.
Right.
Lane.
But for his comment below, he's asking about Dana saying the 5th one with the dark one, right? So are we talking about Nynaeve?
I've seen the 5 of you in my dreams. Well, Nynaeve is Taviran.
Oh,
but
right.
She can't be. Well,
that's what I thought they were alluding to, though, is that she was maybe the 5th one.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's why when she's bright as the sun, that is alluding to her possibly being it.
So I think that the dark one might think she's a possibility. Moraine already
she's not because of the timelines.
Because yes, so the dark one has a little bit less information than Moraine does. So I think that's why Nynaeve is the 5th.
Okay, well, I do have to go, so I got to cut out.
But it could be Elaine. It could be Elaine because she's Taviran as well.
It's possible. Except I feel like we're going to reveal that at the end of this season who the dragon is, so they don't cast her till next season. So
it would be weird to mention then. Yeah. I'm upset about Camelin too.
Yeah. Okay, I got to hop out.
Okay. It's been a blast.
Okay.
Love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Awesome.
Thanks for everyone sticking around in the chat. I think we saw most of your comments, but good night and goodbye. There are no goodbyes to the wheel. I'm done. Where's the button? End stream. Bye. Why is it still live? I clicked end stream.